Buddhists say that life is suffering with brief respites. To James Houghton, a worthy citizen of Letchworth Garden City, this seemed an unjustifiably negative view. Sure, life could hit you, but it also gave you sweet, sweet kisses. He took a sip of his beer, smacking his lips as he let his mind wander. Something was rotten in the Danish kingdom. There were problems on the home front. He played too high in defense. The striker had timed his run perfectly and was now at the goal with the ball at his feet and the wind at his back. In his completely suburban area, hell was breaking out. He was calm, but not completely. He was going through a real whirlwind of emotions. But outwardly, he remained a gentleman, a somewhat cheeky gentleman enjoying a pint alone in the local pub. Life has knocked him down before and will no doubt do it again. This day was not the worst of his life. He might feel that way, but he knew it wasn't true. He's been through a worse day before, and he's done it. He can handle this too. You can't control what happens, but you can choose how to react to it. An oft-repeated phrase from his father. He raised his glass and drank silently to his father's memory. There is no situation in the world in which losing your cool would be beneficial. Every event, every situation benefits from the presence of calm. There were emotions, there were questions, and these emotions and questions almost overwhelmed his calm. But now is not the time for a hot head. This is not the time to let your emotions rule. Now is the time to be like the fonts, be cool as ice. Now you need to distance yourself, create physical distance between yourself and the pain. This physical distance will give him the emotional space he needs to understand and think things through. There was a better solution to this problem, a way to win. He couldn't see it now. Not here, not now, with a storm of emotions and questions. But he knew, taught by experience, that there was victory in this situation. He only needs to find it, and it won't be found at the bottom of a beer glass. It was necessary to turn on the brains. Think about it, consider it a small three-pipe problem and find victory. It wasn't easy. Emotions came in waves, threatening to destroy his fragile calm. He named them and watched them. Anger, jealousy, rage, contempt, anger again. He tried to study emotions when they overwhelmed him. He felt where each of them lived in his body. He paid attention to them and perceived it as a roller coaster. He was not emotional. He was an observer. It was easy when he concentrated, but there will be other times when it won't be so easy. For now, however, he focused on the task at hand. He slowly slipped his beer and watched the audience. Now that he knew the truth, he saw what a fool he had made of himself. Innocent remarks and random events formed a single picture, showing his marriage from a new, unwanted side. While he loved and trusted his wife, he ignored them, did not notice them. Now he could, and he didn't like what he saw. He needed to escape. This problem, this whole situation, was too complex to deal with in one day. Figuring out anger and betrayal will take time. He decided to head back to Manchester, run away, tell his wife that there are problems at work and he is needed there. He had never done this before, but she knew that problems sometimes arose. Before that, he solved them over the phone. This time he will say that a situation has arisen at the factory for which his presence is necessary. It would give him distance, space to think. It would allow him to let off the first steam of emotions and consider his options. Find your way out. He looked down at his pint, not even drinking a quarter. He stopped drinking, made a decision, and went to his car. I quickly wrote a message to my wife, Louise. There's a big problem at the factory. I need to be there. I'll call you later if I can. XXX. Neither elegant nor verbose, but to hell with it, he didn't feel much love at that moment. After sending the message, he started moving. He turned on the car radio and calmly joined the traffic. The roads were quiet on Saturday afternoon, and he wasn't speeding. He thought and planned. He had everything he needed in his home in Manchester. This is the advantage of living between two houses. He was installed in both. A new message signal sounded. He ignored him until he stopped for coffee, already more than halfway there. Drive carefully. Call me when you can. Love you XXX. Lying bitch, he thought, throwing the phone onto the passenger seat. He continued his journey and reached Manchester in the evening. Entering the house, he turned on the light and closed the door with a loud bang. There was no food in the house, but there were plenty of places around where he could eat, so he didn't care. The trip did not bring any deep insights. He put the kettle on and made tea. The milk in the refrigerator has not yet had time to turn into poison. He liked his tea strong and sweet, 2 full spoons of sugar and a rich orange color. His movements were noisy, although this was not on purpose, rather from clumsiness. There was a knock on the door. James walked into the hallway and opened it. "Come in, Nita," he said, stepping aside to let her through. "Is there boiling water on the stove?" It just boiled. She walked into the kitchen, and he, smiling slightly, watched as her hips swayed as she walked. Men could go to war over her figure. Following her, he sat down opposite her. "Well?" she asked, placing her cup on the table. He shrugged, understanding exactly what she wanted to hear. "Why aren't you at home?" He smiled at her outspokenness, which contrasted with her exotic appearance and thick Manchester accent. "Keep your smiles to yourself. You have tea and a listener. Dance or leave the stage." James ran his hand over his face wearily. "I saw Lou kiss Briani. They were in the garden, and I was in the house. They didn't see me. I found them purely by chance. It wasn't a friendly kiss. He wasn't like that at all." And then, like a puzzle, all sorts of little things came together, and old Donald the fool finally realized that my wife, well, let's just say, she was hiding some facts about herself from me. A look of confusion flashed across her face. "Now we're talking about, what am I thinking about?" He nodded to him. Nita snorted. "Some guys are just lucky. You said Briani was hot, right? She's damn pretty. But damn, Lou is my wife." She shook her head. "Listen, buddy, you have a beautiful wife. I saw her photo in your office. She's awesome. And you have another beauty, your words, not mine, who lives in your house. You find out that your wife is kissing this girl while you are not around. Isn't this the scenario for a cheap adult video?" He involuntarily smiled at her words, and she answered him with a wide grin. Finally, at least he smiled. "Sorry, Nita, it's not for me." "Why? Is she threatening to leave you? Want a divorce? The most important thing is, will she let you look at it?" "Ha, ha, very funny. Sorry, Jambalaya, but most men would give their souls for such a scenario. Master classes on. Well, you get the idea, and you look like you didn't spit on your plate. What did she say?" "She doesn't know that I know." "Did you tell her?" There was skepticism in her voice. "No. And what should I have said?" This was the moment for a quick exit. My hero. Run at the first sign of trouble. "Fuck you, Nita," James answered sharply. "Sorry, boss, but I'm not going to have a pity party." James raised his cup of tea, creating the silence that followed her words. Nita extended her hand and placed it on his forearm. "James, you know I care about you, and you know that I want to help. But I don't think the best way to help you is to let yourself wallow in self-pity." He tried to smile. It was hard, but she still made him curl his lips slightly into a grin. "You have an emotional journey ahead of you. In the near future, there will be many different feelings and thoughts. Roller coaster. Not the most fun adventure, of course, but I'm nearby. Use me. I can't believe that my wife is cheating on me, Nita. Briani has been in the house all this time to keep her company while I'm gone, not to be her little toy. God, I probably have idiot written on my forehead." Nita nodded. "This is true. It reads clearly. You left the fox to guard the chicken coop." James thought for a second, wondering if the analogy was appropriate, and then nodded. "To the point. You said that they were neighbors at the university, right?" "Yes, they have known each other for a long time. My parents are friends, they grew up together, went to the same school, and lived in the same area. Best friends until death. Girlfriends with benefits, as it turns out." "Yeah," James replied, taking a sip of his tea and watching with visible disgust as Nita dunked a cookie into her mug. She noticed his gaze and smiled widely. "I have an idea. Seriously, James, this is a brilliant idea. He closed his eyes, realizing that a joke was inevitable. Install a couple of miniature cameras. You know, those spy things can be ordered on Amazon or eBay. Turn your home into a real show. Broadcast to a website or cut to OnlyFans. Ideal for revenge. Nita. Seriously, revenge, money, plus you'll make a lot of people happy. Hot girl scenes, a yummy. Stop it. This is my wife. I don't want to hurt her. Then what do you want? I want to be wrong. I want to sleep. To prevent this from happening, I don't have the slightest idea. James rubbed his face with his hand. Denial is not just a river in Africa. Close your eyes and everything will disappear, Dorothy. Nita softened her tone as she looked at him. It's good that you left. This is one of the two smart decisions you made today. If you talk to her now, nothing good would come of it. Take some time, let's discuss this and figure it out. He nodded. What about the second smart solution? That you opened the door when I knocked? He laughed quietly. Where does she think you are now? He said there was a problem at work, and it needed to be sorted out urgently. You are not only beautiful, but also smart, Jim. How can I help? Don't know. I have no idea. It's like a bolt from the blue. I thought we were fine. She kept talking about children. I don't understand. Why does she need children from me if she is cheating on me? Women, they are a complete mystery. James laughed at her words and how seriously she said them. You're funny and not just in appearance. Ha ha, Nita grimaced. Have you eaten anything? He shook his head. No, I was thinking about getting some curry. Curry is always a good solution. Says the Indian woman, he grinned. Indian goddess, don't forget. Do you want curry? Better pizza, faster and easier. Where exactly? Rudy's, if you're treating me. Okay, get ready. I know, she finished with a smile. You hooked me up. Give me 10 minutes, Mr. Joker, and come pick me up. He smiled at this phrase, which had a completely different meaning in his native land. She noticed his smile. Leave me alone and go get ready. I don't need your jokes, she said with a wide smile, finished her tea and walked out the door. James looked at her with a slight smile. He bought this house shortly after he started his business. Manchester was the center of the vaping industry in the UK, and it made sense for him to settle here. Industrial space was cheap and labor was plentiful. It was a good place to do business. After his parents died, he inherited his childhood home in Letchworth. It seemed inconvenient to him to have two houses, but he could not bring himself to sell the family nest. A house in Manchester turned out to be a more profitable option than permanent hotel stays. The Manchester house was a Victorian twin house with high ceilings and thick walls. The garden there wasn't all that outstanding, but property values at the time were so low that there was no point in complaining. As the business took off, James quickly paid off the small mortgage and now owned the house outright. Its value has risen sharply over the past 10 years as the area has become popular among wealthy Manchester residents. Sunita, or Nita as she preferred to be called, and her husband were his neighbors. For the first 6 months, James only said hello to her whenever they crossed paths. Her husband was a young Indian man, and James tried several times to start a conversation with him, but he was withdrawn and clearly did not want to communicate. Despite the thick walls, James heard scandals when Nita caught her husband with his mistress and kicked him out of the house. There was no divorce. It was not welcomed in her community. The family tried to force her to reconcile with her husband, but she refused. Nita did not accept relationships built on betrayal. They separated, and she bought out his share of the house, refusing any further association with him. After the breakup, Nita remained just as closed. She got a job in his factory, applying for the position of operator. At the interview, she didn't even recognize him as her neighbor. Why would she, in fact, associate the owner of the factory with a neighbor from an unpopular area? James's business was still small then. They produced vape liquids flavored mixtures. He developed the flavors himself, which brought him success. His products sold well online and in retail. Nita turned out to be a good choice. As the business began to grow, she demonstrated her abilities. First, she became a shift supervisor, then, with the expansion of production, she became a manager. 2 years ago, she became director of operations, responsible for production, warehouse, logistics, and quality control. Over time, she opened up. James appreciated her wit and humane approach. Their communication grew from a working relationship into friendship. Despite the cultural differences, she allayed his concerns. Being neighbors and colleagues, they often visited each other. We ate together, went to work, and did some shopping. However, his wife and Nita never met. James has always kept the two parts of his life strictly separate. He was in Letchworth with his wife, and in Manchester he was engaged in business. Louise was not interested in his work. Not out of rudeness, she was just not interested in it. She knew that he was engaged in the production of liquids for vapes, but that was where her interest ended. She taught at an elementary school and loved her job. Her schedule was busy, but she didn't complain. Financial issues did not bother her. The salary was enough, and the bills were always paid. She seemed to have enough money to do what she wanted. She wasn't a big spender, but when she wanted to go shopping, James didn't seem to mind her spending. James looked after the family finances. It was simple enough. They had separate accounts for personal money and a joint account for paying bills. He didn't ask about her money, and she didn't ask about his. The house belonged to James. This was his family's home, which passed to him after the death of his parents. This happened before they were married, and the house, along with his business, was included in the marriage contract to protect his ownership. Prenuptial agreements are not binding under English law, but are taken into account. Louise's parents also signed this agreement to show their support, which added to its weight as a document of intent. When James was growing up, his parents remodeled the house slightly, dividing it into two separate areas. The main house and a small apartment are all in one building, but with two separate entrances and living areas. The main house included 3 bedrooms, a bathroom, a kitchen, and all the other rooms you would expect in a nice, well-equipped home. The apartment consisted of a living room, bedroom, bathroom, and kitchen. James lived in this apartment because it was built so he could enjoy the freedom of being at home with his parents. After their deaths, he moved into the main house, and the apartment was empty. When he married Louise, they moved in together. Louise's bridesmaid, Brianni, was looking for a place to live, and James suggested that Louise move into a flat. It was a convenient solution for everyone. James was torn between the family home in Letchworth and his business in Manchester. This arrangement allowed him to be sure that Louise had a friend next to her who would take care of her and not let her get bored while he was away. Brianni received a free apartment, which allowed her to save significant money. She was a high school English teacher. Living in an apartment helped keep her in Louise's life. It was beneficial for everyone. James and Brianni got on well. Over time, their relationship developed, and she became a valued friend to James. He finished his tea, interrupting his sad thoughts, and checked himself in the mirror. He scrunched his face to make sure nothing was stuck between his teeth, adjusted his bangs, and stepped back. He saw his phone on the table and, out of habit, picked it up to put it in his pocket. He dialed his wife's number. "Hey, Lulu, sorry I ran away. They called me and needed to urgently solve a problem." "Hi, honey, thanks for calling. Did you manage to figure it out?" "No, everything turned out to be more complicated than I thought. I won't be here until Friday." He heard a frustrated sigh from the other end. "Sorry, dear. We'll have to reschedule our dinner." "I'll remember that for you, mister. Take care of yourself, and remember, I love you. Call later. Bye." He put the phone in his pocket, grabbed his coat from the chair as he walked, and walked out. A minute later, Nita joined him. She was wearing jeans, a sweater, and sneakers, and her hair was pulled back into a ponytail. She looked beautiful as always. He smiled when he saw her. "Let's not talk about what's happening now. I understand that we may accidentally touch on this, but I don't want to discuss it too much. I need to collect my thoughts. So can I help?" He nodded. "I have until Thursday to figure this out and decide what to do. Give me some space to think, then we'll discuss. I appreciate your opinion." She thought for a moment and then nodded. On your car or on mine? By mid-evening. Tomorrow is Thursday. Usually on Thursday, he goes home. Worked from home on Friday while Louise was at work, and then their weekend started. On Monday, he left Letchworth around noon. Sometimes he left on Sunday evening, but usually stayed to take her to work on Monday morning. He needed to make a decision. Every evening he called her. The conversations were short compared to usual. No flirting on the phone, which they both sometimes liked. He didn't want to give her that kind of attention. She seemed calm as always. Nothing has changed. She was a skilled liar. It was all surreal for him, talking to her knowing that she was sharing a bed with Briani while he was away. He thought about not going home. Stay in Manchester either permanently or to buy some time. But this was a bad tactic. He needed to act, not sit idly by. Waiting would not bring any positive change in this situation. He avoided discussing what was happening with Nita. At first he wanted to figure it out himself, but so far there has been little progress. He loved her. He was fairly sure of this. He loved their marriage, but he was tormented by doubts. Their marriage has always been a little unusual. They lived their lives half together, half apart. This suited both of them. It suited him, and it seemed to suit her too. In this situation, he could be with her when he was at home, to be completely with her, without distractions, and their marriage benefited from it. This seemed to suit her too. She never complained about his absence. She understood and accepted such a sacrifice for their way of life. She did everything to complete her tasks, and when he was home, she had no classes or assignments to review. And it wasn't all fake. The more he thought about it, the deeper he dug, the more confident he was. She really loved him. She was faithful to him. Her words and vows mattered to her. So much so that she hung a framed copy of them in her kitchen. It was so important. He couldn't believe she wanted their marriage to end. Damn it, she demanded children. She wanted him to be the father of her children. She told him this 100 times. It was he who delayed having children, not daring to start the family that they both dreamed of. His indecisiveness was explained by their long separations and her stubborn refusal to visit him in Manchester. The more he thought about it, the more he became convinced that her feelings were sincere. So why is she cheating on him? He knew it was a double standard, but the fact that it was Briani changed his perception of her infidelity. If it had been a man, he would have reacted quickly and harshly. But with a girl, part of him wondered if it even mattered. He hasn't fully realized his feelings yet, but now he was calm. Their relationship was not ideal. She didn't like Manchester. She had a snobbish prejudice against this city. She saw him as he was in the 1990s, not appreciating how much he had changed in recent decades. She came there once, at the very beginning of their relationship. It was a rainy weekend, gray and dreary. She didn't like it. She complained, and this reinforced her prejudice against the city. This was a source of friction between them during their rare moments of quarreling. He wanted her to come there, to show interest in what he was doing, in where he lived, in his company, but she resolutely refused. He proposed every time she had a vacation or weekend, but she always refused, preferring to stay in Letchworth or visit her family. She was closely connected with her family, spending time with them on every vacation and vacation if they did not leave. Her friendship with Briani sometimes caused problems. Briani could be moody, could be intrusive, spending time with Louise while he was at home. She was close enough to remind him of the annoying sister he never had. Briani was beautiful, smart, athletic, and generally very funny. She could make him laugh with her view of the world and the people in it. But she could also be arrogant, annoying, and an unwanted obstacle preventing him from spending time with Louise. To be honest, it was there from the very beginning. He met Louise when he went to a stag party with a friend. She was at a party with her friends from school. She returned home for the summer from university. He then met Briani, her roommate, on the first night. They danced. She seemed pretty to him, but nothing more. The next day, one of his friends began an affair with one of Louise's friends, and the two groups spent the entire day together. A whole day of fun, then dinner and meeting again in the evening. He spent time with various girls from the group, but found that he enjoyed hanging out with Louise. She was attractive, knew how to have fun, and had a great figure. He wasn't looking for anything serious. She lived on the South Coast with her parents and studied in London. He lived partly in Letchworth and had a house in Manchester, which he had recently bought. She studied to be a teacher, was friends with teachers, and communicated with teachers. He was an entrepreneur, an adventurer trying to make a small business financially stable, although at times he didn't know what he was doing. It didn't seem like an obvious match. She asked for his number, and he gave it, taking her number in return. He didn't think much about it. Geography made their relationship difficult, and he was busy with work. He knew that her friend Briani didn't particularly like him, and he wasn't very interested. She was a fun conversationalist, pleasant in appearance, and good on the dance floor. She laughed at his jokes, but he didn't see anything more. However, incredibly, those two who started an affair have stood the test of time. For their first anniversary, they gathered as many friends from the two companies as possible. James went to the meeting. He didn't have many friends and needed support after his parents died. His parents died a few months after he met Louise, and he missed them greatly. He threw himself into his work, and his efforts began to pay off. His business was still small, but he was already earning a good reputation, and his online store was thriving. Meeting with friends was a good reason for a break. Louise and Briani recognized him, and apparently word of his loss had reached them. They spent time with him, and he enjoyed their company. This time they were a little more flirtatious, with smiles, laughter, and light touches. He looked at both of them again. Both were attractive, but he liked Louise, the blonde, better. She seemed calmer, more confident. He liked the energy she gave off. She called him the next week. Just talk. It was really just a conversation, but gradually they began to build a friendship, and then he began to visit her. He saw Briani occasionally, but mostly visited Louise, and their friendship began to develop into something more. He did not put pressure on her in terms of sex. He was patient. He wanted a long-term relationship, not a quick romance. She reciprocated. He met her family and got along well with them. When her studies ended, she happily moved in with him in Letchworth. She took a job at a local primary school, and Briani found a job at a secondary school in Hitchin, a small town near Letchworth. James let her use his old apartment. It was convenient for everyone. James could be calm while away, knowing that Louise was not alone, that she had a friend who could support her. This relieved him of his anxiety. Everyone benefited from this and were satisfied with this state of affairs. James proposed to Louise, and she accepted. They got married, and their previous arrangements continued to work. James met Briani's family. They became like family to him, as she had long been a part of Louise's life. They were kind, friendly, and received him as warmly as Louise's parents. This system worked. She held on for years, until reality hit him over the head, and he realized what a fool he had been made to be. He knew that he would soon have to return home, but he was not ready. He didn't have a plan. But the whole point of his departure was to work out an answer, find a solution. But despite all this time, he still didn't know what to do. There was a knock on the door, and he stood up to answer it. "I should give you the key," he said, seeing a smiling Nita who walked past him and headed down the corridor. "Don't expect me to mind," she shouted over her shoulder. He followed her, watching the movement of her toned hips as she walked. "If you want to have the key, contact Jamuna. I already have a copy made for you. I don't want to intrude on your privacy." Coward, he sat down at the table and watched her make herself some tea before joining him. "Are there any cookies?" He shook his head. "I'm not going to let you desecrate a cookie in this house, madam." "Jim, you're a terrible boss. Okay, you're coming home tomorrow. What's the plan?" He shrugged. He didn't have a plan. "Okay, I gave you time. You had the opportunity to feel sorry for yourself, eat ice cream, and cry to Mamma Mia. Now it's time to pull yourself together and deal with this. Have you already come up with a plan?" "No. I dealt with the first emotional reaction, but I still don't know what to do." "You won't become Winston Churchill. Let's figure it out together and make a plan. We will win this war. Nita, it's not that simple. She stood up and took out a piece of paper and a pen. It's just that simple. We will approach this as a work task. We'll go through it step by step. Do you want to stay married to her? I don't know. He thought for a moment. I don't know if she wants to be with me. These are two different things. One is under your control, the other is not. Do you want to stay with her? He nodded. Great, one question removed. Now let's find out if she wants to stay with you. Has this romance, affair, or relationship been going on for a long time? He shrugged. Don't know. Yes, you know. Think about it. What does your intuition tell you? For a long time. They have known each other all their lives and lived together at university. This is not new. Okay, this means she could leave you at any time. Absolutely any time. But she didn't. This shows that she is invested in your marriage. She doesn't want to break it. Or she's waiting for something and then she'll strike. She thought for a moment. Also true. She really does have the best of both worlds, huh? A husband who loves her and spends 4 days a week with her, and a mistress who is nearby for the remaining 3 days. Both people are dear to her under one roof. Yes, a little deception, but she lives well. Probably so, he replied. Does she love you? I thought so. I thought we had a strong marriage. We talk, spend time together, we have an active sex life. And she always emphasized that our marriage vows were important to her, that she would never break them. What were your vows? Ordinary? He shook his head. I used the traditional ones, and she wrote her own. But I'm sure there was something about treason. Can you find out what she promised? Yes, they are on the kitchen wall, framed. Our vows. For what? This will show whether their relationship began before the wedding. You said Briani was at the wedding party, didn't you? Briani? She was a bridesmaid, yes. He thought for a second. We need to check. I'll write them down. Nita wrote on a piece of paper. Find out her vows. You know, she may not cheat on you. What? If she chose the words carefully in her vows, she might not break them. James thought about it. It was possible. She was adamant about her feelings about their marriage vows. Binding, that's what she called them. He snorted. It was worth rereading them carefully, given what he had learned. Jimmer, she's not going to leave you. She had opportunities, but she stayed with you. She didn't have to marry you. She was probably with Bryony first. Maybe she is waiting for some event to leave, but tomorrow she will not leave the house. You don't want a divorce. You just have to figure out how to overcome it. This is where I get stuck. I don't want a divorce. I really love her, and I think she loves me. I think we have a good marriage. But if he is so good, why does she have someone on her side? Why am I not enough? I must have enough. I'm not such a bad option. You're a damn good option. He looked at her and saw her face turn red. Thank you. But if this is so, why does she need Briani? Nita shrugged. I have no idea. If it was a guy. If it were a guy, we wouldn't be talking. I would punch him in the face half to death. She would be living with her parents, and my lawyer would be super busy. But she doesn't sleep with a guy. She's sleeping with Bryony, who honestly can give her what you can't. What? James paused, considering what he had said before continuing. Nita, this doesn't sound like her. She told me that I was the first man she slept with. The only one. She needed to feel loved, to feel like it was important, before she would agree to sleep with him. She had boyfriends before me, but she never crossed that line. I like a woman with principles. James laughed. Someday your sarcasm will dry up. I sure as hell hope I'm there to see it. No, she is faithful to me, and she is faithful to Bryony. I don't believe it's just sex with Bryony. Look how long they've been together. She is in a relationship with both of us. Is it possible to be in a relationship with two people at the same time? Isn't that a contradiction or whatever it's called? An oxymoron? No, you're just a moron. James rolled his eyes as she continued. She loves you, married you, wants children and a future with you. Sounds right, doesn't it? Yes, but she also loves Briani. She loves her, wants her in her life, wants to continue to be with her. So, James nodded. I think yes. At first she was with Bryony, but Bryony can't give her everything that I can. Do you think she is looking for legitimacy, children, a future together? Yes, she wants it all. She thought for a moment before continuing. That's the thing, isn't it? That's why you are experiencing difficulties. Bryony is not a threat to your marriage. No, no, he's not threatening. If that were the case, she would have destroyed everything long ago. I don't feel any hostility from her. I think Bryony wants things to stay as they are. This suits her. Exactly. Louise is not going to leave you for Bryony, but she wants you to be her husband and Bryony on the side. You give her one thing and Bryony another. A little spice. Nita shook her head. The only sharpness here is me. But I don't think that's the point. I think it's an emotional connection as well as a sexual one. You're right about the two obligatory relationships that coexist. They coexist as long as Bryony knows about it all, and I remain in the dark. Yes. James noticed that Nita was lost in thought, but her words resonated with him. That's why I have difficulty with the question of divorce. She has someone on the side, but it's someone who doesn't threaten our marriage. She doesn't want to leave me or ruin what we have. Hey, Nita. Sorry, just a thought came to mind. She made a few quick notes on the piece of paper in front of her. One more question for you. I should have asked it much earlier. Are you sure about this? I'm really sure. No chance that this is a mistake. Don't think. I saw them kissing from the window. This was not a friendly kiss. Are you 100% sure? I'm 90 sure. Double check. Maybe you're stressing yourself out over nonsense. You need to make sure that there really is something between them and not just your fantasy. He winced at her words, but she didn't pay attention. As she spoke, she wrote down a note for him to make sure it was cheating. Okay, let's get back to your vows. If she doesn't break her vows, is she cheating on you? And does it even matter? He paused for a moment, considering her words. Maybe technically she's not cheating. But even if what she does doesn't break the vows, I'm still not happy with it. Even if it doesn't threaten our marriage. Cheating or not, being with Bryony is a game changer for me. Fair, maybe it's not cheating, but at least she gets more than you. Write this down, Nita, and underline. Nita looked at him as he considered why her words seemed important. She has all of me in our marriage and something extra. And I only have her. I don't feel threatened by Bryony, but it does piss me off that she's getting something else. Not so annoying that I want a divorce, but I am angry. What if she breaks everything off with Bryony? Really tear you apart, how will you feel? I'll still feel the same. She lied to me, it infuriates me. I don't trust her. This is another problem. If she says she left Bryony, I won't believe her, and that's shitty. Fine. What if she suggested opening the marriage? Would you say that you can be with her and with Bryony too? He shook his head. No, I've already thought about it. She will still have Bryony all to herself, and I will share it with Bryony when I'm around. I'll lose even more. Two women give you love. Bryony is cute. Are you afraid that they will break you? He heard the teasing in her voice. No, I can handle two women. Damn, I'd love to try it. But this proposal, if she had made it, would have angered me even more. I don't agree. There was silence as they both considered what they had said. Nita spoke first. Just a thought, Jim. You said she always presses you about having children. James nodded slowly. Could this be what she's waiting for? So I could make her pregnant. She gets the baby and then disappears? I wouldn't think so, but maybe, who knows? They sat in silence. Nita shook her head. No, I don't believe it. It's too cold, too cruel. To do this, she must hate you. Yes, I agree. She's not that mean or manipulative. I think I'm leaning towards the fact that she has two people she loves and a life that allows her to do that. I don't think she wants to leave me. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. He shook his head. Go home this weekend. Don't do anything stupid. Find out the missing information and make sure what you think is true. Then we will decide what to do. James sat lost in thought. Can you be close to her without showing anger? James nodded. Stone Cold Steve fucking Austin is what they call me. She played with me. Now that I know, I'm in the game. In the damn game. Jammer, cool down. This could be the best thing that ever happened in your life. You don't know, you don't know. First, make sure, and then we'll decide what to do. Nita finished her tea. Are we having dinner today? James nodded. Let me call her, and then I'll order something for us. Super. Nita stopped at the door. Just a thought, Gimpy. No matter how much you want, don't leave Brianni little surprises. James wondered for a moment what she meant, and then realized. He laughed. Nita, the day will come when I will definitely put something in her box. But it won't be this weekend. Nita left, her laughter echoing down the corridor. Lady, James said, entering the house. Louise and Brianni were sitting at the kitchen table. There was a noticeable distance between them, James noticed. His wife turned at the sound of his voice and quickly took off, heading towards him with such speed that he barely had time to react. She rushed to him and hugged him tightly. He wrapped his arms around her. Her head rested on his shoulder. She fidgeted, trying to find a comfortable position. He buried his nose in her hair and inhaled its scent. She smelled something warm, golden. He always liked that about her. She always smelled so wonderful. I missed you, she whispered, nestling into his arms. Me too. It's been a long week. Everything is fine? He nodded. Yes, we figured it out. This happens from time to time. We did it. The main thing is to move on. Is everything all right? Yes. Everything is fine. I'm home with you. He turned to Brianni. Hello, Bree. How are you? Hello, James. I'm fine. And you? It's better now that I'm home. He looked at her and decided to tease her a little. You better wear earplugs at night. I missed Lou, so we need to catch up. What sophistication, Brianni commented. Louise slapped his hand. He laughed, looking at both of them. Coffee? Louise suggested, heading towards the coffee machine. She insisted that they buy the latest model, which makes coffee like in an expensive cafe. James then rolled his eyes, but paid anyway. He nodded and sat down at the table. He looked around the room. The house was beautiful. This was the home of his parents, and before that, his grandparents. It was an old, spacious, bright house, and James always felt calm in it. The house was within walking distance of the city center and sat on a lot of about half an acre. The garden was well maintained and consisted mainly of lawn. It was nice to spend time there in the summer. The house was beautifully decorated. Thanks to his successful business, James didn't have to spend weekends painting or renovating. He always hired professionals to do it. He liked it because he could spend more time with Louise and relax. The kitchen was combined with the dining room. It was their favorite place in the house. Spacious, with an adjoining glass veranda, it offered plenty of places to relax. Louise loved to cook and James enjoyed her culinary creations. He noticed the framed text of their marriage vows on the wall, but he was too far away to make out the words. The inscription was located next to the door leading to the adjacent apartment. The door could be locked on both sides, but it was usually left unlocked on their side. James also found this an interesting detail. Louise handed him a mug of coffee, and he wrapped his arms around it, enjoying the warmth. How are you? He asked his wife. She smiled back. It's been a long week without you. You left so quickly last weekend. Didn't even say goodbye. There was no time. I had to rush, without even saying goodbye. You were busy in the garden. I didn't want to be distracted. I think that. She hesitated. She seemed to remember exactly what she was doing in the garden. I could leave a note. Yes. He took a sip of coffee and took a deep breath. Honey, I almost forgot. Next weekend, we were thinking of going to our parents. Would you like to come with us? He knew that he usually needed to be persuaded to go on such trips. They sometimes went to the coast where their parents lived. The journey took a couple of hours. They usually stayed with either her parents or his. James saw them less often, as he preferred to meet in the city. He loved them, but now he felt tired and answered before he could think. Not this time. Looks like you're on vacation soon, right? There was irritation in his voice. Louise and Brianni looked at each other, and he caught the caution in their glances. Yes, in 2 weeks. Great. He paused, thinking it over. Could you postpone the trip while I'm in Manchester during the holidays? He saw Louise look at Brianni again before answering. And this was the answer he was looking for. We haven't seen them for a long time, and, Lou, I rarely see you. Our weekends together are important to me. I don't want to lose another one, especially if you can easily visit them while I'm in Manchester. You don't have any special plans for the holidays, right? Louise put her hand on his arm. We can go on vacation, that's not a problem. I didn't think it would cause such difficulties. Lou, I want to spend time with you. I think we should take a little vacation. We both need to rest. Okay, you are going to spend 2 days with your parents. You know what? Take 2 days at the beginning of the holidays, and the rest will be spent together. He looked at the mug as he spoke, but noticed the glance pass between them again. I would like that, Louise said slowly. Great. I'll organize everything. Tell your parents that you will see them on Monday and Tuesday. Will the business survive your absence? Asked Brianni. Nita will handle it, as always. She can take on almost everything. I would really like to meet this amazing Nita one day. I have an image in my head of some old lady, wise as the hills. James laughed. She's the complete opposite of that. If you're ever in Manchester, I'll introduce you. She's worth it. She would love to meet you both. Nice try, but I want to make it to my next birthday without getting mugged, Brianni replied with a grin. After what happened last week, are you sure you can leave? Everything is under control again. Don't worry, Daddy's home. He lifted his mug and took a long sip. These words must have caused turmoil in their heads. James felt satisfied and internally right. Let them know that he is aware of the game. While we're on vacation, we can talk about children, Louise said, looking at him with determination. He looked at her. Are you sure you want children? Oh my God, James, do you even know her? All she talks about is your children. She already has their names and room designs, Brianni laughed. James knew Louise wanted children. More precisely, she always said what she wanted. But after what he found out, did she really want them? He tried to reconcile the two sides of his wife. On the one hand, she was a loving wife who dreamed of a family. On the other hand, she was in a long-term relationship with a woman. Which one is real? What is her priority? Yes, I think she really wants to, he answered, but his voice sounded uncertain. He fell silent, deciding whether to express his doubts in the presence of his wife's mistress. No, no way. You can't show weakness. Louise looked at him with concern. Do you think what I want? Dear, how can you doubt my love for you or that I want to give birth to your children? I want you to take me right now and make me pregnant. I don't care if Brianni hears it. I want you to prove right here, right now, that I am your woman. I went to my room, sorry. Brianni stood up and left the kitchen, but both James and Louise noticed the smile on her face as she left. Come on, James, I want your baby, Louise said, standing up and taking his hand, leading him to their room. It was a particularly memorable weekend for James, who headed back to Manchester completely exhausted. James knocked on the door. After a while, not hearing any noise, he checked the street. The car was standing still. Why wasn't it responding? He knocked again. There was a muffled sound inside, and the door finally opened. Nita stood on the threshold, but she looked different. She was wearing a sari and seemed smaller than usual. She motioned for him to come in, and he followed her, closing the door. Are you okay? He asked. She stood in the kitchen, waiting for him to enter. By the light of the lamp, he noticed that her eyes were red and swollen. Hey, were you crying? What's happened? He approached her, and she literally collapsed into his arms. James hugged her, feeling her sun. He didn't say anything, just held her and stroked her hair. It took some time before she pulled away from his embrace and began rubbing her eyes to dry them. He went to the sink, filled the kettle, and pulled out 2 mugs, readying them for tea. Do you want to tell me what happened? He asked softly, looking at her. He rarely saw her vulnerable. She was usually strong and confident, and projected that confidence onto everyone, including him. Problems with family. Oh, is everything very bad? It's complicated. The kettle boiled, and he made tea. Bringing the mugs to the table, he sat down opposite her. It's okay, I know how to deal with difficulties. We are old friends with them. True, we haven't seen each other for a long time, but they sometimes drop by. You know, like my buddy, hard work. These two often come together. She looked at him with a piercing gaze, then pushed back her chair and stood up. You're an idiot. Dirty mouth, he quipped with a smile. She went to the cupboard, took out a package of cookies, and placed it on the table between them, taking one. Pagan, James muttered as she began to dip the biscuits into the tea. Tea is an Indian drink, white guy. Watch and learn. An Indian drink that the British taught you how to prepare correctly. She smiled at him. A little bit of England, a little bit of India. The perfect mixture. She looked at him slyly. Works for modest tea. Now talk to me. She shook her head. Rush got engaged today. Well, last week, but today there was a party, non-alcoholic, for both families. You wouldn't like it. Have you gone? She nodded. Yes, and I don't regret that I didn't stay at home. Are they getting it again? Nita was in an arranged marriage, not a love marriage as she called it. When James first learned about such marriages, he was stunned. It seemed to him that this was a long time ago, certainly not in England. This is something medieval. Over time, as he got to know Nita better, he began to realize that such marriages were quite common and not necessarily as oppressive as he thought. Nita came from a conservative family. The family understood why Nita separated from her husband, but could not come to terms with her decision to divorce. She lived in limbo, married to a man with whom she refused to build a relationship, attached to him only in order not to upset her family. The husband didn't seem too worried. He was already with his third or fourth partner since Nita kicked him out. James felt that her family thought she should accept it. Marriage is for forever, not for convenience. Nita's relationship with her family remained tense. She was quite independent and was not afraid to speak her mind. But her family brought out a vulnerable side of her, like a little girl, completely different from the confident woman she usually was. Yes, a lot of small hints. I'm sorry, Nita. They kept saying that it was time for Rush to have children, and that I could do the same if I stayed married, as I should. If only I could give Dinish another chance. Do you want children? She nodded. Wow, this is what I didn't know. You surprised me. I know, it's a cliché, isn't it? To be honest, I dream of being a mother. This is what I always wanted, what I have strived for since my youth. But after this asshole, I was left with only a spoiled feeling. Come on, Nita. There is no way in hell that you are damaged goods. You are one of the most amazing people I have ever met. Any man will be happy to have you in his life. You will make a wonderful wife. Not my wife. Her words were firm and cold. I will have a relationship with a man. I want it. I want children with a man and not to be a single mother. But marriage, no thanks, and I'm not going to put everything on the line for a man. I need independence, that's the lesson I learned. I feel like there are strong emotions here, hidden waters running deep and all that. She laughed. I tried, did everything I had to do. She was a good girl and broke her heart. Once I made a mistake and it hurt. It hurts a lot. I don't want to go through this again. Any man who wants to be with me must understand my need for space. The next time I give my heart, it will be on my terms. You will get it, Nita. You have character, intelligence, appearance. You are special, and I say this as your friend. Hold on to that same man and that same relationship. Don't settle for less. You deserve it. She smiled at him shyly. You just have to say that, otherwise I'll make so much noise that you'll never be able to get a good night's sleep again. I'm not saying this because I have to. I say this because there is rarely an opportunity to tell you how special you are. Normally you'd crush my legs with your sarcasm if I told you what you were like. Am I really that terrible? No, You're amazing. I feel blessed to have you in my life. After Lou, you are probably my closest friend, and I am lucky to work with you. You will find another man. Damn, you're one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. Now I know for sure that you are lying. Stop begging for compliments. And I'm not lying. Is it true? When I'm ready for love, it will be a real problem to find a normal man. Yes, this is a problem. There are many idiots among men. Good ones are rarer than chicken teeth. You will find someone, Nita. Trust me. That's the problem. I've already trusted once, and it didn't end well, right? Hey, Nita, get married. That's what a good girl does. Find the man of your dreams, Nita. Build a family, Nita. Marry a good man from a good family, and you will start your own family together, Nita. She fell silent for a moment. James saw her anger hidden behind her words and remained silent. I did it. I was a good girl. I married the man my parents chose. And what came of it? I'm in my 30s, married to a man I despise. No children, no prospects of having children, and I don't even have the courage to divorce him so as not to upset my parents. What a fool I am. And now my little sister, who learns from my mistakes, does everything right. She says no, chooses her man, and my damn parents accept her choice. Next time, take me with you. I'll tell them everything. Yes, it will work. Hey, Dad, Mom, meet James, my married boss. If I bring a man home, it will be a strong signal to them. Glad to see sarcasm is coming back, a sign that you are getting better. Nita smiled at him. I'm ready to support you, Nita, 100%. If you want me to go with you and stand up for you in front of them, I'm with you. I think you should divorce this idiot. Get rid of it in every sense. Listening to you, I think only one thing. Stop procrastinating. You know you don't want to be with him. Get him out of your life. Is it that simple? Her voice was quiet, thoughtful. I will help you, Nita. You're doing a great job. You were amazing during all that shit with Lou. If you need my support, you will get it. I'm your friend. Let me be your friend. She looked at him, thoughtful, then smiled. Are you hungry? My parents are worried that I don't eat enough and have piled on me with food. He nodded, remembering how he had tasted her mother's dishes before it was something special. If she wanted to change the subject to talking about her mother's cooking, he was willing to oblige. She stood up and began pouring the contents of various containers into pots. He stood up and looked over her shoulder. It looks amazing, he said, inhaling the aroma. Here, try a couple of things. She pushed a large container full of samosas towards him. He took a couple of pieces and sat down again. They don't want you to starve, right? She quickly heated up several dishes, and he sat and watched her movements in the kitchen. Sometimes she looked back to see what he was doing and smiled every time. She served him the food, telling him what each dish consisted of. Watching her cook in a sari made him feel relaxed and calm. I had such a shitty weekend. And now the main question, how are you? Not so bad. Louise was too attentive to me. I think she was a little more stressed by my absence than I expected. Lots of cuddling, lots of sex. Bryony was quiet. She joined us on Saturday night and snuggled up on the couch with us to watch TV. Settled down with you or snuggled up to Lou. To me, she was on one side, Lou was on the other, as usual. Is this usual? If we watch TV, yes. A pleasant way to spend time. I saw that you left early. Yes, after our conversation on Wednesday night, I kind of had an idea and decided to go there and see what I saw. She shook her head. This is not good, right? I arrived there at about 4:30 in the morning. I parked a couple of streets away from the house and walked up to the house. Our garden is surrounded by hedges and gates. The gate was locked, but I opened it. Nobody woke up. Alarm? This is Letchworth, not Moss Side. He smiled as Nita rolled her eyes. I walked in quietly, without light. He took off his shoes and went upstairs like a mouse. He paused. Come on, James, tell me more. No one in the bedroom. No one in the guest rooms. The beds have not been touched. Tell me that you didn't push them. James laughed. No, you cunning bastard. I hid and waited. I knew when they were going to take Bryony to school, I wanted to see if she would come back to the house. And she didn't come back. Bingo. She left Bryony's apartment with Bryony. I didn't go into the house at all. They live there while you're gone. Yes, James nodded. When school started, I snuck into Bryony's apartment and looked around. Wrong. What? This is my home. She's sleeping with my wife. Nita shook her head. No, James, this is not an excuse. Don't do that. I understand you're angry. I understand that you feel that you are being retaliated against. But you can't do that. You're better than this. He heard the anger in her voice. He had nothing to say. It seemed like a good idea, a way to find out what was going on. I don't know what to say. Stupid thing. Nita nodded. I understand that you are angry. I understand the desire for revenge. But you are a man with class. I don't know how things will end between you and Louise, but then you'll have to look yourself in the eye. Who you are is what matters most. Don't disappoint yourself. He sat there feeling like a schoolboy being told off. Forgive. It's not for me to apologize. I know. Okay, thanks then. Thank you, Nita, for stopping me. You're right, this is not what I want to be. Nita came up and patted him on the shoulder. I know that you are hurt, but it will end. It's just a moment in time. Don't ruin your future over this. It's not worth it. So, Mr. Super Sleuth, what did you find? Don't tell me you smelled their underwear. Nita. Sorry. Her smile showed that she wasn't really serious about this, but James grinned anyway. I went in and looked around. It looked as if they were married. There were photographs of the two of them. Their bedroom looked exactly like their bedroom. Home comfort. Not so glamorous. To be honest, it was a little unkempt, but it looked lifelike. There were a lot of clothes in the closets, but there is still enough room for them. James laughed. Hardly. Apparently, there wasn't enough space in the closets even for one person. Everything was packed to capacity. To the point of refusal, that's not how they talk. Bit compact. Well, okay, the bathroom is the same. It looked like a couple's apartment. The only difference is the photographs of only the two of them. Photos? Which ones exactly? Nita, these were ordinary photos. Them in college, on vacation, at our wedding. Not sex. Disappointing. Such potential, and they, well, I don't know. It's like a wilted lettuce salad. James laughed at her description. It was disappointingly ordinary. You know that they are together. This confirms it. Yes, but one thought occurred to me. Nita nodded. Which? They live their lives in a small apartment. I understand that they live rent-free and save money. But this is what I see. Weekends, good days, when there is somewhere to go, something to do. I have space, money. I can offer trips, pleasant moments. And they work and go home to their small apartment while I'm away. It's a little sad, isn't it? That's the thing. I don't feel angry, I feel disappointed. Adore. Your wife is cheating on you, and you feel sorry for her. You are the kindest soul. Yes, well, although I still took a little revenge. Oh, tell me you shit in her drawer, please. That would justify all your spy behavior. James laughed at her words, and Nita smiled, pleased with her joke. I'm even weaker than Juliet and Juliet. No, I just slightly disrupted their plans. What did you do? There was alarm in her voice. Nothing bad. I noticed that they were planning to go away together for a short break during the holidays. There were booklets on the kitchen table. And they asked if I would mind if they went to see their parents over the weekend. This would give them the opportunity to go on holiday. I saw through them and said that I didn't like it. Why not use your holidays to travel? And then Lou invited me to come with me. Nita laughed. Well done. Did it work? Yes. I could tell they didn't like it, but, well, It's a perfectly reasonable request. Are you going to take her with you? He nodded. Yes. At the end of the holidays, I plan to take her for a few days in search of spring sun. Amazing. Punish the cheater. Take her on a romantic trip. She will never cheat again. She rolled her eyes and James laughed. Now that I have opened my eyes, I notice more. Little glances, little touches. It's all visible. I just didn't know where to look. Do shadows jump? Shadows? I understand. Are you imagining something? Don't know. Maybe, probably. But there are real things too. Was Bryony nearby? Sometimes. Not intrusive, she was cheerful. That's what pisses me off. Everything was so damn normal, Nita. It was like any other weekend. His voice fell silent. He sat looking into his mug of tea, twirled the cup in his hands, and drank the rest. They got used to it. They are used to hiding their relationship while you are around. This is not new for them. This has been going on for a long time. Until I, a fool, was too blind to see it. Yes, this is the confirmation effect. You only see what confirms your belief. You ignore reality if it doesn't coincide with him, or something like that. Sex and love make you think everything is okay. Maybe, or maybe not so cynically, she really loves you, but when you're not there, she has Briani. Betrayal is treason. It hurts to realize that our marriage is a lie. Is it him? She loves you. James thought for a moment before answering. Yes, I think you're right. You love her, it's obvious. Do you want a divorce? He shook his head. No. Exactly. She's cheating on you, and you don't want a divorce? Not yet. I love her, and I want to find a way to fix everything. Seeing her, I realized, I want her to be in my life. I can't really explain it, but there's something about her that makes me want to be there, love her, make her life better. She is, apart from this whole situation, a damn good wife. You probably forgive more than I do. Maybe, but she was there when my parents died. It was the only bright spot I had. Work and she, or rather, she and Briani. Did you know her before the death of her parents? I didn't know about this. No. We knew each other, but met again after their death. That's when everything started to spin. She was a real support for me. I'm not one to cry in public, but I had some hard times, and she helped me. Bryony, too. We spent nights talking, just being around each other. You don't owe her anything. I know. It's not about debt. I'm just not going to be cruel about it. I love being her husband. She is the ideal option for me. Except for one point. James laughed. Yes, except for one thing. And Briani, she's like the annoying little sister I never had. Constantly gets underfoot, but I understand. That doesn't make it right, but I see divorce is off the table. This is not what I want, Nita. Okay? Have you checked her vows? I photographed our vows. Show me later. Is she cheating? According to the letter of her oaths, no. She promised that I would be the only man in her life. She didn't promise to give up everyone else. And you? My oath includes the renunciation of all others. Nita laughed. Oh, she has you wrapped around her finger. I want to meet her. I'll have to count my fingers after this, but I want to. Don't talk. I didn't even notice. She didn't break her promises. Smart woman. Slippery. Yes, but now we know what she did. The curtains are pulled back and we see the wizard. Hooray, I'm lucky. This is luck. Would you rather know that all this is happening or be blind to it? I would prefer to know. Nita nodded. Yes, and now we need to find where to win yours. I like it. Mission, find my winnings. Don't laugh, James. Your win is there. We need to understand him. Think about what it might look like. What are the options? I don't know what it would look like. Probably so that all this crap doesn't start. There was a pause in the conversation as Nita was distracted while putting the cooked food on plates. James moaned in pleasure as he began to eat. Damn, your mom can cook. This is not only my mother, but also my aunts. This is the food of our entire community, not just our community. They finished their meal and James helped with the cleanup. Can you cook like this? Nita nodded. A real Indian girl. Mom taught me and my sisters to cook. We can do everything. I just don't do it. Why? It was amazing food. There's no point in cooking for one. Girl, cook for me whenever you want. Tell me when, and I'll be happy to cook for you. Do you want me to be a good little housewife? I will be her with a smile on my face. She smiled at him slyly. You're teasing. Yes, I'll do this too. I still had to learn Indian dances. Classes were on Tuesdays and Thursdays while I was growing up. You are a lady of all trades. If only you appreciated it, Jay, if only. He laughed at her comic flirting and got up from the table. See you tomorrow. In my car or yours? Let's go on mine. Come pick me up at 7:30. See you tomorrow. Hey, are you sure everything is okay with your family affairs? She nodded. Yes, I'm thinking. Your kick in the ass helped. Like you, I feel like there is a way out somewhere. He is close, but for now something is eluding him. Everything is fine. I'm glad. And seriously, don't let them drag you down. If you want to become a mother, you will become one. You just need to find a suitable donor. I think I found him. All I have to do is convince him that I'm the same mom. James laughed. This shouldn't be a problem. Now, excuse me, I have to go and cry into my pillow, knowing that my wife is at home with her mistress. Keep your tail up, Gimpy. See you tomorrow. James walked over and gave her a quick hug before walking down the hallway to the door. James, James, he heard the urgency in Nita's voice. He started to walk back towards the kitchen and almost collided with her as she ran out of the room. I think I have a plan, Jim. He smiled at the excited woman in front of him. She was literally vibrating with energy. Really, Nita? Sly and subtle. Oh yes, Jim Lord, oh yes. Cunning like the fox who became professor of cunning at Oxford University. She laughed with delight. Jimmy, this plan is so cunning that you can attach a tail to it and call it a weasel. This is exactly the plan I need, Nita. That's exactly the plan. I need an 18-level plan, and I love it when a plan works plan. But given all the hype, not Dr. Evil's plan. Dr. Evil's plan? That's not what I came with. Do you want to win in this chaos? I don't just have a victory. I have a legitimate good victory. Real lawful good. I'm just that kind of bard. I want to hear. He saw the sparkle in her eyes and the smile playing on her lips. She has never been so beautiful. You haven't been married for 10 years, have you? Isn't the anniversary coming soon? He shook his head. Anniversary next month, after school ends for the summer. She smiled. He smiled too, not understanding. What? If I tell you, promise to do something for me. He looked at her, trying to make sense of her words. She literally radiated excitement. She raised her hand as he started to speak. First, promise. I promise. You promise exactly, no matter how weird or what it is. I won't run naked down the street. Besides that, if I can, I will. Well, what's the plan? He became infected with her energy. For your anniversary, surprise her. Have a vow renewal ceremony or something similar. You know, where you renew your vows. He understood what she was talking about. He began to smile. This is why he appreciated Nita. She always found a way out. He didn't understand where she was going with this, but he knew that she was leading him in the right direction. But surprise her so that she says the same vows and you change yours. He looked at her, not understanding. It doesn't get to me. What will this give me? This will even the odds. You will do to her what she did to you. He shook his head in amazement. Okay, he drawled, considering her words. I don't understand what this will give me. The right to change. You will do to her what she did to you. She won't be able to complain. You'll balance the scales. Smart, I will think. I'm not sure what I'll do with this right. It's unlikely that I have women knocking on my doors. Well, now I owe you. What do you want? Enjoy it. He didn't have time to understand what she meant. The words had not yet sunk into her head, but she was already kissing him. He wanted to pull away, but stopped. He made a promise, and most importantly, he wanted it. He stepped forward and hugged her. He began to kiss back gently, carefully, enjoying the moment, feeling closeness, savoring the feelings. He loved the way it felt with her. Finally, they pulled away, and she was breathing heavily. She looked up at him, and he noticed a barely noticeable tear in the corner of her eye. "Can you hear me knocking now?" "What?" "Go home, idiot. See you in the morning." It took weeks to organize everything before the anniversary. It was not easy to arrange everything so that neither Louise nor Brianni suspected anything. But James had a team of people in the company that were skilled at doing the impossible. And with Nita motivated and guiding them, everything became real. He had to tell both sides of his parents to come and keep their mouths shut. Friends were not a problem, but he spent several sleepless nights worrying whether everything would work out. He wanted everything to go perfectly professionally organized and at a high level. His company prospered, life was good. He wanted this day to be memorable for everyone, no matter what awaited them next. This was the rebirth of their marriage. Marriage 2.0 is fair. He took the time to rewrite his vows. He worked with Nita to formulate them so that they said exactly what he wanted and nothing more. They both knew that someday the truth would come out. And when that happened, he wanted Louise and Brianni to understand that he did to them the same way they did to him. Nothing more, exactly the same. It wasn't about making things worse, it was about giving everyone exactly what they deserved. It was even more difficult to come to an agreement with Nita. The kiss came as a shock. Despite her appearance and their friendship, he had never thought of her in that way. He didn't think she would find him attractive. He was too unsuitable. Her family would never approve of him. She never gave any indication that she was interested in him. The kiss changed everything. The kiss showed that there was something between them. Both knew that they were connected by work, friendship, and a lot at stake. They agreed not to do anything until the vows were changed. None of them wanted to be a cheater. Both have been hurt by this themselves in the past. Nita also made it clear that she didn't want to be his escape from Louise. Letchworth should not have invaded Manchester. She wanted a relationship with James, not to be his refuge in a storm. He agreed. He saw no reason why life could not be clearly divided. Nita was a more flexible partner as she adapted to him. He was going to make sure she didn't miss anything. He also intended to give her the space she needed. His marriage to Louise meant that Nita would have time away from him to be herself and not just an addition to him. As far as they could tell, this situation could work for everyone. Knowing that Nita had feelings for him made it difficult to refrain from acting, especially when at each meeting he found more and more in her that could attract him. Her appearance, her humor, her care for him, her figure, which he had noticed for a long time. Despite their attraction, they had a lot to talk about. Their relationship would be unconventional, and there would be plenty of room for misunderstandings and mistakes. But to his surprise, the discussion turned out to be easier than he expected. A few days after the kiss, Nita met with her parents to announce her divorce from her husband. She didn't ask James to go with her, but chose a day when he was nearby so she could have emotional support when he returned home. He calmly helped her deal with her tears and helped her fill out the divorce papers. He was there when her lawyer confirmed that her husband had received and signed the papers consummating their marriage. He raised a toast with her to the end of one stage of life and the beginning of another. James stood at the altar in the church, waiting for Louise to approach him. Her father stood at the entrance, and her mother sat in the front row. When he looked at her, she gave him 2 thumbs up. He involved them in his plan. A wonderful plan for a loving and caring husband to surprise his wife with a vow renewal ceremony surrounded by family and friends on their 10th anniversary. With the support of her family, he orchestrated everything so that Louise would be taken by surprise. My parents arrived for the weekend, and they went out to lunch. Brianni stayed at home. After lunch, her mother took Louise to get ready and dress up for the ceremony. The time was organized so that she did not have time to understand what was happening. He separated her from Brianni in advance so that they would not have the opportunity to agree. He needed Louise to feel loved and appreciated before he could carry out his plan. He didn't want her and Brianni to wonder what was going on. He even persuaded Brianni to dress up, saying they were meeting Louise's family for a gala dinner. As the organ began to play, James looked out at the gathering of family and friends. Louise had a lot of support, her family and fellow teachers. Brianni also came with her family, and James greeted them with pleasure. When Brianni entered the church and realized what was planned, her face betrayed her thoughts. She understood what had happened, but could not object. She walked up to the altar with a tight smile on her face, playing for everyone around her. But James, who knew her best, saw her suffer as she stood there and watched the woman she loved renew her vows to her husband. He liked it. Seeing that expression on her face was satisfying. The last month has been damn hard. He talked and planned a lot with Nita. He was excited about what lay ahead. He loved his wife, truly loved him. But for what she had done to him for the past 10 years, she deserved retribution. Brianni lived in their house, essentially rent-free, sleeping with his wife while he was away. Louise allowed this. Yes, she kept her wedding vows, not allowing another man into her life, but she cheated on him with a woman. She betrayed him with a woman instead of a man, and it was no less painful. The hardest part was maintaining a semblance of normalcy. He invented a problem at work that distracted him, and this helped him hide his true feelings. Even despite the betrayal, his sex life with his wife did not suffer. He still found her attractive and desirable. She remained beautiful, sexy, and ready in bed for him. Several times he wondered if she was comparing him to Brianni. He also wondered if she had ever invited him to watch or even participate in their sex life. Whether the idea had been rejected by Brianni or by Louise herself, he did not know. But she had the opportunity to arrange it, and the fact that she didn't meant that one of them didn't want it. He looked at Nita standing next to him, and she answered him with a wide smile. He asked her to be his best person at the ceremony. He wanted her to stand nearby so everyone could see her. She looked gorgeous in a colorful and elegant sari adorned with gold embellishments with an open waist. She smiled broadly at him, knowing that this ceremony meant the beginning of their life together, and she was looking forward to this moment. He knew Nita wanted him. He wasn't going to do anything until he changed his vows. But once he does, he will enjoy their relationship to the fullest. He would have a wife 4 days a week in Letchworth, and on his return to Manchester, Nita with all her charms. His physical attraction to her grew stronger, and she made him laugh, think, and strive to become a better person. She complimented him just like Louise. Nita was his opposite, balancing Louise. He knew that sooner or later he would have to give Nita a child, just as she knew she would share him with Louise. He had no intention of leaving his wife. Maybe one day Louise would decide to leave, but he wasn't about to take that first step. Nita should have understood this. She said that she agreed, and he believed her, if only he could fulfill her main desire to give her a child. The thought of having a child with Nita was attractive to him. He knew what a wonderful mother she would be and how happy that would make her. He turned to the church door as the organ began to play louder and saw his wife enter, holding her father's arm. Even from this distance, he could see the adoration on her face as she walked down the aisle towards him. It was easy to smile back at her. He felt his heart beat faster as he watched her approach. She looked around for Brianni and, seeing her with a bouquet in her hands, gave her a huge smile. Brianni gave her a tight smile, and then Louise's attention turned back to her husband. The ceremony went flawlessly. Louise said her vows without fear or doubt, as did James, and then he said his. "Louise, you are the most important person in my life. The center of my universe, my light. Never, in any years to come, doubt the depth of my love for you. I look forward to watching us grow old together, living our lives happily and fully. I promise to take care of you, love you, and support you. I promise to maintain the standard of living to which you are accustomed and to treat you as an equal, with the same respect and attention as you treat me. Thank you for becoming my wife." He noticed how her eyes filled with tears as he spoke. She didn't take her eyes off him throughout the entire ceremony. The love she radiated was visible not only to him, but to everyone in the church. She was literally surrounded by radiance. They walked out of the church into bright sunshine, and a photographer hired by James captured their joy. James organized a huge celebration, and everything went perfectly. He danced with Brianni, thanking her for her participation, but did not say too much. Part of him wanted to prick her and show her that she had lost, but he knew that, although she was unaware of his knowledge, this day had already hurt her enough. That's why he was polite to her. James introduced Nita to Louise and Brianni. This was their first meeting. None of the Letchworth women had any idea what his operations manager looked like. They noticed her next to him, but did not understand who she was or why she was there. "Are you his operations manager?" Surprise sounded in Louise's question. "I work for a company, so I'm not exactly his manager." "Not 100%. But yes, I lead the operations team." He rarely talks about his work in Manchester. "He mentioned you, but never described you." There was a slight reproach in Louise's tone. Nita glanced at James and smiled. "Oh, then dip me in chocolate and throw me to non-traditional women. Jim, have you ever told your wife about me?" How rude. James almost choked on his drink at her words, and noticed the confusion on Louise's face. "He constantly talks about both of you," Nita finished, trying to keep an innocent expression on her face. Louise laughed. "Sorry. These must be terribly boring conversations." Nita shook her head. "No, I really liked hearing about you. He is incredibly lucky to have both of you in his life. I just need to take a photo of you two together. The guys in the office will be delighted." James had a hard time holding back a smile as he watched Nita make fun of Louise and Brianni with a completely serious look. He saw them straighten their shoulders, flattered by her words. His reputation will grow, I can assure you. "Has anyone else from the company arrived? I've long wanted to go to Manchester to see the plant, but I just can't find the time," Louise noted. "No, I'm here alone. We recently signed new contracts, and this created a lot of tension. We can barely cope with the volume of orders. It must be difficult. You have a very small team, don't you? It's so nice that everyone is trying to help and cope." Nita gaped in surprise at this comment and looked at James, who just shrugged. "We don't discuss work when I'm at home. There are so many other things to do here. You know, it just doesn't pop up. The two sides of my life are completely separate, and I want to keep it that way." Louise looked at her and noticed the surprise on Nita's face. "What did I miss? Did I say something wrong?" Nita shook her head. No, it's okay, but we are not a small company at all. We employ more than 100 people. We are one of the largest e-liquid companies in the UK." "What?" Louise and Brianni almost screamed at the same time. They looked at James, who shrugged again. "Two sides of life, remember? You're not interested in what I do. Business pays the bills. You never ask about my work or how I spend my time away." "How big is the company?" Brianni asked with obvious curiosity. "Last year's turnover was, well, more than 20 million. Damn it. Hey, don't make plans for a divorce so you can get every penny out of me," James said with feigned horror. "This is turnover, not profit, and we have just renewed our vows." "Don't even joke like that," Louise answered sternly. "Don't even joke. I love you and am absolutely happy with our life. You heard my vows. You see them every time you walk into the kitchen. They are the heart of our marriage and our home. You know I keep my word. I love you and our marriage will not end in divorce." James laughed as she spoke. "Then you will have to put up with me. I want our new vows to hang next to the old ones to remind us what our marriage means. I also have no intention of leaving anywhere. Well, maybe in an hour, when a limousine picks us up to take us to our second honeymoon." He noticed the dissatisfied expression on Brianni's face and the delight on Louise's face. Second honeymoon. Yes, and what one? 2 weeks of sun, sea, sand, and real relaxation. 2 weeks, Brianni intervened. James smiled as he thought about how she would be left at home alone while he enjoyed his time with Louise in the sun. Yes, I wanted it longer, but work only allows for that. But when I get back, I'll have to catch up in Manchester. So my plan is 2 weeks with you on your honeymoon, and then 2 weeks in Manchester. He saw Brianni pretending that she had nothing to lose. She didn't know that after her honeymoon with Louise, James was going to surprise Nita with a trip for two. Everything was already organized and paid for. It was his way of sincerely saying thank you and getting their new relationship off to a bright start. Oh, wow, this is incredible. I packed my bags, so don't worry. Everything is ready. Just say goodbye to everyone tonight. James walked around the guests, thanking them for coming, making sure everyone was happy. He found himself on the veranda with Nita, who smiled at him. Well, you did it. New vows are in place. Marriage version 2 is activated. Are you happy? He nodded, feeling the effects of the alcohol. 2 weeks to relax and make sure she's okay. And then you're mine, white guy. He nodded. Yes, I'm yours. Understand, James, no more games now. Everything about Letchworth stays in Letchworth, Manchester stays in Manchester. I won't listen to complaints about your wife. When you are with me, you are with me. I thought about it too. I came to the same conclusion. Fine. Does she know where you're taking her? James shook his head, smiling. No, it will be a surprise. It's true. Lesbos is a not-so-subtle hint. I wonder what she will say. If he says it, then he says it. This is a hotel with an excellent reputation on a famous Greek island. Everything is completely justified. My prediction is that she will think about it, but will not dare to say anything. Anyway, I promised you and her. I just hope. SHH, I know how important your marriage is to you. I won't do anything to ruin it. I love you, and I'm incredibly happy that we found a way to be together. I'm interested in what will come of this. I promise if things go wrong, it won't affect your family. Thank you, but nothing will go wrong. I want you to become the mother of my children. This means that we are together for life, no matter what happens. She gave him a wide smile. They both turned at the sound of a knock on the door behind them. Louise was standing there. Can I intervene? Sure, come along, James replied. Louise came out onto the veranda and stood next to him. James put his arm around her shoulders. Thank you for organizing. Everyone seems to really like it. A lot of money was spent today. Brianni seemed a little upset. I hope I didn't offend her. Louise shook her head. Brianni is Brianni. She will survive. The main thing is that she is glad that I had such a magical day. We should find her someone special, James said thoughtfully, deciding to tease the dragon a little. I think she's happy with the way things are, Louise replied calmly. I don't know, but maybe if she got a little love, she'd be happier, he continued with a grin. James, don't be so rude, Nita exclaimed. Would you say that to her face? He nodded, grinning from ear to ear. Oh, yes, of course. I think regular sex would soften her character. This should be my goal in life, to find her someone who can please her. She needs a significant other who can ring her bell. Nita shook her head, barely holding back her laughter. Louise, in turn, chooses the right words. What makes you think she doesn't get enough sex? I think that even if she has regular dates, her partner is clearly a slob. He probably just doesn't know how to properly satisfy a woman. If she had someone who could give her goosebumps, I'm sure she would have already introduced us to him. Nita was literally shaking with laughter because of this conversation. Maybe she's just enjoying herself while you're gone. Have you thought about this? Asked Louise. What, limiting yourself to 3 days a week so as not to interfere with my sleep? She is never that caring or attentive. No, if she gets something, then the quality is clearly not the same. Otherwise, we would know this person. Before the conversation could go any further, Brianni came out onto the veranda. Your limousine has arrived. Thank you, Brianni. He paused for a second before continuing with a smirk. Please behave while we're gone. No wild parties or boyfriends. James, Louise was indignant and slapped him on the hand. Call me if you have any problems, he told Nita, heading towards the door. Yes, boss, Nita replied. Enjoy the ride. See you when you get back. Brianni walked out with them and hugged James and Louise before they got into the limousine. James looked at her standing next to Nita as the limousine pulled out of the driveway. Darling, Louise began, we need to talk. James turned to face her. A light coating of sweat glistened on his skin, his breathing gradually evened out. About the curtains again? If this is the case, then no conversation is needed. Just change them. Louise playfully slapped him with her hand. Silly, I want to talk about children. Time passes. I want us to start trying. It has been 4 years since we renewed our vows. 4 damn years, James. I want your children. No more excuses, no more later, no more delays. I want you to make me a mother. We are talking about this again. Why? Don't you like our life? Children will change her completely. Darling, I love our life. Absolutely love it, but I want kids. 2, if possible, but even 1 is enough. Don't you want to? I thought you wanted children. You always said you wanted them. Come on, we've discussed this so many times, it's time to start. Calm down, tigress, I like children too. But before we have our own, shouldn't we practice a little more? I want to make sure we do it right. James moved closer and began to kiss her. She slipped out of his arms and smacked him with her hand. Hey, this happens every time we talk about children. You take it as an invitation to have sex, and we never end the conversation. We need to discuss this. You're constantly going off topic. It's time to have a serious conversation. Is it true? Should we talk about the same things again? Can't we leave everything as it is? You say you love your life. I know I love mine. Why should we change this? Can't we just be grateful for what we have, consider ourselves incredibly lucky and privileged, and move on? If children appear, they will appear. James, I'm 37 years old. It's high time we had them. I thought this is what you want. We've discussed this so many times that I feel like a broken record. I want children. When will we get them? What's stopping you? I don't know. We live so well. Do we really need children? Wouldn't that be burdensome? SHH. I know how important your marriage is to you. I won't do anything to ruin it. I love you, and I'm incredibly happy that we found a way to be together. I'm interested in what will come of this. I promise if things go wrong, it won't affect your family. Not so much now. I look at what we have, the two of us. Not just our marriage, but the way our lives are harmoniously intertwined, and I feel like kids are going to ruin everything. This scares me, Lou. I don't want to destroy what we have either. I love our way of life. But what if I promise the kids won't ruin anything? I'm not sure I'll believe that promise. Oh, wow! Louise turned around sharply, crawled out of bed, and began to pull on her underwear. James rose up on his elbows, leaning against the headboard, and looked at her. She was still as slim and beautiful as the day they met. Watching her dress was a real pleasure. Louise turned to him, adjusting her underwear so that it fit comfortably. A simple move that all women do, but for men it seems incredibly attractive. Since when do you not trust me? Hey? Since when have I not kept my promises? James could remember one specific promise, although, as a true master of excuses, she would probably have found a way to get out. He knew her too well to answer. My word is everything to me. You know that. You know me. If I made you a promise, you know I'll keep it. James got up from the bed and walked over to her. The problem, honey, is that if you only made promises to me, I would be happy. But how many other promises have you made to other people that I know nothing about? He walked to the dresser, selected fresh underpants and socks, then returned to the bed to get dressed. Louise stood motionless, looking at him with her mouth open. Don't start this thread, James, he told himself. Now is not the time for this conversation. Are we still going to your parents for Christmas? Louise looked uncomfortable with the abrupt change of topic. To Brianni's parents. My parents will join us there. Oh yes, I forgot. To Brianni's parents. I haven't seen them for a long time. They are interested in you every time I come. We'd love to see you. They know that you are important to Brianni and that she cares about you. I am an obstacle in Brianni's life that she would happily remove, preferably with a pistol, but if you don't have one at hand, a knife will also work. You're kidding, James, but she really cares about you. James snorted. I haven't seen any evidence yet that she even cares about me. If she cared, she would move out of our house and finally have her own life, instead of being the weird 30-year-old parasite that hangs over our marriage. James, what's wrong with you today? Did I offend you? I thought everything was fine with us, but since this morning. She hesitated for a second. Ever since the morning you got what you wanted, you've been on edge. Sorry, Lou. There are topics that trigger me, and... He didn't finish, pulling on a t-shirt to finish getting dressed. We talked about two things, Brianni and the children. I didn't think one of these topics would upset you. Louise pulled on her jeans, twisting slightly to ensure they sat properly on her hips. She looked at herself in the mirror, straightening her hair into a ponytail. Coffee? Yes. James followed her downstairs, enjoying the sight of her hips in her tight jeans. It was one of his favorites, and it never disappointed him. Louise had a magnificent figure, a real treat for the eyes. He even wondered who had better shaped Nita or her. It was a pleasant dilemma that he could ponder for hours. He sat down at the table while Louise busied herself preparing the drinks. Can you explain in words what exactly bothers you about the idea of having children? She asked while making coffee. James thought about it. Are you ready to move to Manchester? She shook her head. No, I'm settled here. You can reduce your working hours. You're the boss yourself, for God's sake. You used to work 3 days a week, but now you spend more time there than at home. You never complained. You knew where the business was even when we were dating. You knew it took time even before we got married. You've always been comfortable ignoring Manchester. You could move there, we could settle down, rent out this house. But you chose to be here, even if it means we spend our lives apart. I love you and I understand what this business means to us. I can't complain, right? But living in Manchester, they will kill me there if I work as a teacher. You know what the kids are like there. Come there, spend a week with me, and I promise, Lou, you will fall in love with this city. You have a strange, distorted view of him. It's as vibrant a place as any other major city outside London. She responded with a contemptuous snort. He decided to change tactics. I thought my trips were good for you. If I were at home all week, it would disrupt your usual routine, wouldn't it? No, I think I could handle it. I would have to change some things, but I could do it. Would you still be able to live the life you want? I think yes, but it's still just a dream, right? You won't stop coming to Manchester. No, I won't stop, but I want you to understand why it doesn't work. Is that the only reason you don't want children distance and our different lives? No, I'm afraid that if we have children, they will call Brianni Daddy and not me, and I will not participate in their lives at all. Brianni will become their second parent, not me. The child will live with two mothers and not with Mom and Dad. This is stupidity. James shrugged. He watched as Louise carefully pressed the French press and then slowly poured the coffee into the cups. She brought them to the table and placed them in front of them. Not from my point of view. From my point of view, Brianni will spend 4 days a week with the child, and I will spend 3. She will have more time with him than me. I don't like it. I don't like that she spends more time with you than I do. So why add another person to this arrangement? Besides, our lives work the way they do. It's a delicate balance where none of us gets everything we want, especially when looking at the big picture. But everyone gets enough and is happy. Why destroy all this? Sorry, Lou, but I can't agree. Then move the business here. I can't. I made a commitment. People depend on my work to pay their mortgage. I'm part of the community. The center of the industry is in Manchester. If I move, it won't be a local business, it will be a corporate one. I will lose an important part of the brand's history. Fine. Then let's do it this way, get Brianni out of our lives, and I'll move the business. How do you like this deal? What kind of deal is this? What does Brianni have to do with your business? I will be here full-time. I can turn her apartment into my office. I will sell the business in Manchester and start a new project here. This is nonsense. Why can you only sell or transfer a business if Brianni leaves, but not otherwise? You want me to make a huge, even reckless sacrifice for you, but you're not ready to do the same for me. You don't want to move to Manchester and live with me, even though I said if you agree, we'll have children. He felt anger boiling inside him and took a deep breath before continuing. Okay, so Manchester is not. Then I'll come here. I'll make a sacrifice, but you have to give something too. You must make the same sacrifice as I did and give up Brianni. Because I asked you, to show me that being together is more important to us than your relationship with her. I'll do my part. Can you say the same? She shook her head. Her words were quick and angry. You're either crazy or showing anger by asking such a question. I don't understand why they have to be connected. I've been friends with her all my life. She does not threaten you, us, or our family. Stop dragging her into this. James stood up. I'll go for a walk. See you later. We haven't finished the conversation yet. It looks like you've already finished listening. You want me to give in, so you have to too. I said everything I wanted about this. See you later. James headed towards the exit. What about your coffee? Pour it down the sink. 3 weeks later, James parked in his driveway, frowning, unhappy that there was no room for his car. He cursed, drove back onto the narrow street, and began looking for a parking spot in the area. There was nothing nearby, and he had to leave his car a few minutes' walk from the house. Taking his things and a bag of gifts, he headed towards the house. He knocked on the door, and it was opened for him. Merry Christmas, James. Nice to see you. Come in. He walked in, feeling the warmth of the house, took off his coat, put his bag on the floor, and kicked off his shoes. Following the hostess into the kitchen, he accepted the offered coffee. It was coffee from a capsule machine, but as they say, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, he thought, holding the drink in his hand. He placed the gifts on the table. Later, he will put them under the tree with the others. You are the last one to arrive. Everyone else is already here. It's a long road. It must be terribly tiring going to Manchester every time. It's not that difficult. It would be great if Louise wanted to move, but she doesn't, so she has to cope. He entered the living room, a large space combining a dining room and a cozy sitting area. Everyone was already there, including Louise's parents. He hugged everyone warmly, shook hands, and kissed Louise. Did you manage to finish everything? He nodded. Crazy week. It's usually a quiet time in our industry at this time of year, but the last couple of weeks have been borderline chaos. How was the Christmas party? Did everyone behave themselves? He nodded again. Yes, a couple of young guys went too far and behaved like idiots, but no one crossed the line. Everyone liked the food and the evening was a success. It's a pity you couldn't come. I think you would have liked it. Sorry, dear, but I don't have a tracksuit. This is Liverpool, you impudent girl. If there is a difference between them, then no one south of Birmingham notices it. So, are you finally ready to relax and enjoy Christmas? Yes. I was running around so much, trying to get everything done, that I didn't even feel the festive mood. Well, now you are here. You can relax and have a drink. Everything is ready for Christmas, so let's spend these days with our families. She kissed him, and he sat down. Fatigue rolled in like a wave last week, was incredibly busy. He wasn't sure he should be here. It seemed to him that it would be better to stay in Manchester. He talked about this with Nita, but she just waved it off, and it didn't make him feel any better. He spent Diwali with Nita and the children. Jasminder was still too young to understand what kind of holiday it was, and Aisha was just a baby. But 3-year-old has already knew who Santa Claus was and was looking forward to his arrival. James wanted to see her eyes when she opened her presents, but he couldn't think of a good enough reason to miss Christmas with Louise. He sipped his coffee and tried to delve into the conversations, but fatigue took its toll, and soon he began to nod off, sitting in the warmth. Louise shook his shoulder gently. "Dinner will be served now. Do you want to wash your face?" He nodded and rose from his chair. "His coffee is cold." He glanced at the clock on the mantelpiece. "You slept for about an hour. Probably very tired." "Yes, long day, long road. Thanks for giving me a break." He went upstairs and went to the bathroom. I splashed cold water on my face to come to my senses. He went downstairs and took an empty seat at the table. Louise sat at the other end, waved to him, and then continued talking to her father and Brianni. James found himself between Terry, Brianni's brother, and her mother. Opposite him sat Louise's mother. He nodded to everyone and began helping himself to food as the dishes passed around. The food turned out to be delicious, and he began to eat with gusto. "Well, next year we will hear the pitter-patter of little feet. Cross your fingers." "Sorry?" James asked his mother-in-law, not believing his ears. "Louise said that you are planning to have children." Finally, I was already afraid that I would never see my grandchildren. James shook his head. "If we are planning children, then this is news to me. The last time we talked about this topic, the conversation didn't lead anywhere." The mother-in-law nodded. "Yes, she told me. This made her very upset. I said I'll talk to you. Let me remind you of your responsibilities. Polly, I'm not going to discuss this with you. This is between me and Louise. Sorry, but this is our question that we must decide ourselves." "Nonsense. This applies to all of us. We all have an interest. Louise is very upset that she waited so patiently for so long. Now, let's be honest, she doesn't have much time left, and you're still hesitating. I'm not going to discuss this, Polly. I don't interfere in your marriage, and you won't interfere in mine. This should be the end of the matter," James thought, popping another bite into his mouth. He was surprised that Louise discussed their differences with her mother. She had never done this before. He got on well with Polly and Arthur, but their marriage was not their business. He won't let them think that the baby will definitely come. It will be his decision, and not one that he will be forced to make. Brianni said Louise was upset because of your indecisiveness. "Did Brianni discuss this with you?" he asked, turning to Brianni's mother. She nodded. "I know that my daughter is not going to have children. With her lifestyle, if you know what I mean." James noticed the way her lips pursed and wondered what she meant by lifestyle. Brianni wasn't openly acknowledged. As far as everyone knew, including him, she was looking for Mr. Perfect. But her mother seemed to know something different. Did she know about Brianni's affair with Louise? Hardly. Surely they were careful enough not to tell their parents. "I don't quite understand what you mean. I think we should focus on Brianni finding a man." James noticed how her mother's reaction changed. She knew that Brianni was not looking for a man. "Then you will have the grandchildren you want." Brianni's mother laughed. "I agree with Polly. The only way I will get grandchildren from Brianni is if you take responsibility and make Louise a mother." James felt confused, but didn't say anything. She looked up from her plate and continued. "You don't have your own family, do you? You work on the road so much that if you have children, Brianni will become a second parent to them, and I will be a second grandmother. Polly will be a grandmother, and I will share these responsibilities with her. The children will have two grandmothers, and they will not need for anything. No, I think, ladies, that Brianni is more likely to get pregnant than Louise." His joke elicited polite laughter from both women. He continued to eat, memorizing the conversation for later discussion with Louise in private. It looks like he was deliberately placed at this end of the table so that these two could influence him. All this is clearly not accidental. The holidays promise to be long if this continued. "So what's new in the world of e-liquids, Bonky?" asked Terry. "Nothing special. We're doing well. The market is stable. A couple of companies have dropped out." "Did you fly out?" "Yes, they either went bankrupt or sold. But to be honest, it's even better. We settled in well, closed a couple of profitable deals, and acquired a couple of large clients. The thought haunted James. Bank. Terry laughed. Yes, you've been sleeping in my room for several days. I hope you don't snore. James felt confused. He looked at Terry with full attention. Sorry, what? Sybil intervened in the conversation. You sleep in Terry's room. We put an air mattress on the floor for you. I thought Louise and I would be in the guest room. No, Louise and Brianni are in Brianni's room, as usual. You're the odd one out, so we placed you with Terry. She noticed the expression of bewilderment and concern on his face. Don't worry, he doesn't sleepwalk. James put down his knife and fork and wiped his mouth with a napkin. They had not discussed sleeping arrangements with Louise when she told him where they would spend Christmas. But the idea that they would sleep in separate beds and she would be in the same room with Brianni was beyond his mind. What was she even thinking? Anger began to boil inside. Sybil, I'm sorry, but I think you should reconsider this plan. I feel uncomfortable sleeping separately from my wife. This is unacceptable to me. Honey, it's only for 2 nights. Girls usually sleep together. I thought you wouldn't mind. This way, there will be enough space for everyone. What's the big deal? The problem is that my wife shares the bed with Brianni while I sleep alone. This won't happen. He himself could hear how tense his voice sounded. Her casual comments were starting to irritate him more and more. It was as if they didn't understand the meaning of their words. Louise said everything was fine. We discussed everything with her. Perhaps it's normal for her, but not for me. I have a solution, Polly intervened. Come to us. We have a place. You can sleep on the bed. You'll be back here in the morning. It's not a problem. James thought for a moment. It wasn't ideal, but they did have enough space. It might upset Brianni, but it would be better for her than for him. He nodded. Thank you, Polly. He picked up the cutlery again and continued eating. Gradually, his anger subsided. The cavalier discussion of the topic of children and then the inappropriate sleeping arrangements infuriated him. It's like no one took it seriously. He took a sip of wine, but then switched to water. In his state of fatigue and tension, alcohol would not do any good. He needed to keep his mind clear. He listened to the conversations going on around him, but did not participate in them himself. The others apparently realized that their words offended him and tried not to provoke a conflict. The conversation passed him by, and he just sat and absorbed the atmosphere. Polly finished eating, got up from the table, and walked over to Louise. She sat down next to her, and Jane saw them whispering about something. Louise glanced in his direction, then nodded to her mother. Everything is settled. The panic is canceled, Polly said, returning to her seat. She took a sip of wine. Louise said she wouldn't mind if you stayed with us since you don't like sleeping on the floor. James felt his breathing become heavy again at her words. Sorry, I don't care where I sleep. That's not what worries me. It's the fact that my wife is sleeping with someone else. If she slept on the floor with me, I wouldn't mind. It's not about the bed. It's about the fact that she plans to spend the night with another person. His voice was tense, and he felt his words hanging in the air. He seemed to be speaking a different language. Yes, this is Brianni. Why should she sleep on the floor if there is a bed? She can sleep with Brianni. You stay with us, and everything will be fine. He blinked, realizing that they didn't seem to be getting the gist of his claims at all. Sorry, Polly, but it seems we are talking about different things. Or perhaps I didn't understand something. Why should she not sleep with me? Maybe because I'm her damn husband. Why am I worried? Perhaps because my wife is going to spend the night with someone else, and you all think this is normal. I don't know, maybe I'm just a fool. His voice was filled with sarcasm, and he saw that Polly realized how excited he was. James, you're exaggerating. She's not sleeping with Brianni, they're just sharing a bed. You don't sleep together every day, as far as I know. He felt that everyone at the table was now paying attention to their conversation. Louise stood up and walked towards them, her face expressing concern. What's happening? Her mother turned around. James is still unhappy with the sleeping arrangements. I think I'm not explaining it well. James? Louise asked, looking at him. What's the matter? I thought you wanted to go to my parents so you wouldn't have to sleep on the floor. All agree. He took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. Louise, I don't care where I sleep, but I find it completely unacceptable for you to sleep with someone else. This is wrong. What? Surprise showed on her face. I share a bed with Briani. I know. Everyone says it's normal. But the problem is that you are my wife and I am here. I expect us to sleep in the same bed, not you and Briani. We should be together. It's only for 2 nights, she said irritably. I didn't think it would be difficult for you to accept this. Briani is uncomfortable on the air mattress. She doesn't want to sleep in the same room as her brother, and she and I always share a bed when we come here. It's easier. But for me, it's not easy. I don't like you sleeping with someone else. Stop acting so stupid. It's only 2 nights. You get a normal bed. What else do you need? He looked at her. She was either incredibly stubborn or he didn't explain well what was bothering him. Or maybe she just doesn't respect him. Words couldn't express what he felt. He saw her standing in front of him with her arms crossed, looking like she was reprimanding an errant schoolboy. This was her territory, her family, Briani's family. He was a stranger. He wondered if such sleeping arrangements had been planned in advance. Perhaps it was a kind of Christmas present for Briani. His chest felt tight, as if something was pressing on it. James, you're clearly tired. You fell asleep in the chair. You've had a long day, a long journey. Go and get some sleep. Come back tomorrow, and we will all celebrate Christmas together. He sat silently, looking at his hands. He didn't trust himself to say anything. He didn't want to see the expressions on the others' faces. Taking a sip of water, he noticed that his hand was shaking. Yes, he said, barely squeezing out the words. Tomorrow everything will be different. She nodded and returned to her seat, shaking her head. He took another sip. He already knew what he would do. He knew where he wanted to be. Are you okay, James? Sybil asked, noticing his condition. Yes, I will. Thanks for dinner. The food was amazing. Sorry if I ruined your evening. Nonsense, you didn't ruin anything. It's just a misunderstanding. He stood up from the table and took his phone out of his pocket. He nodded to the others and returned to the chair where he sat until dinner. It took several minutes to write Nita a message and call a taxi. He was lucky. There were drivers working in the area. He chuckled and changed the ringtone on his phone. Standing up, he noticed that the others at the table were talking, putting away dishes and not paying attention to him. This suited him quite well. Perhaps they thought he was just sulking. He didn't care anymore. Louise was talking to Briani and her father. They laughed and continued their discussion carefree. James locked the phone and carefully placed it on the table. This telephone was part of his life in Letchworth. In Manchester, he used another. He could leave this one here and not feel the loss. He looked at the keys. He shouldn't have gotten behind the wheel. Fatigue was making itself known. He decided to leave the keys, but then shook his head and put them in his pocket. He went to the toilet and then, avoiding the noise, quietly took his coat, his travel bag, and left the gifts. Carefully, without making a sound, he left the house and walked along the path, feeling the gravel crunch under his feet. The smell of rain was in the air. He buttoned his coat and walked into the night, away from the brightly lit house. When he reached the bus stop, the taxi had already arrived. Looks like he'll be spending Christmas with the kids after all. In an anonymous industrial space in Trafford Park, Manchester. On Friday, at the end of the school Christmas holidays, there was a knock on her office door, and Roland looked inside to see her. Nita, there are 2 women here, looking for James. Nita looked up from the computer screen. It was a busy week as they launched a new product line. She was glad that she came to follow the process. She was interested in what kind of women came. Unexpected guests. 2, it was intriguing. She smiled. Can you take them here? Roland's head disappeared, and a few minutes later he led 2 women into her office. Nita stood up to greet them and offered them coffee or tea. Both refused. She closed the door. Louise, Briani, How many years? How many winters? Welcome to Manchester. Welcome to Emerging Vapes. Have a seat. Glad to finally see you. We have been waiting for your arrival for so many years. You look great. Louise and Brianni sat down, clearly feeling awkward. Nita also sat on their side of the table to create a friendlier atmosphere. She didn't want to give them any kind of game. How did you get there? Nita asked with a smile. The women looked at each other. Brianni spoke. Not bad. Probably easier than we expected. The road was normal, but to be honest, we didn't know where we were going and what awaited us there. Well, here we are, said Nita. Since you're here, would you like to look around? We are proud of what we have created. James will be happy for you to see what he has spent the last 10 years doing. She noticed that they had no particular desire to look, but still led them to the storage room and began the tour. Over the years, she has perfected her opening statement. Nita talked about certifications, awards for the taste of products, and took them around the factory, explaining the production process. How big is this place? Brianni asked, looking around the length of the production floor. We produce more than 500,000 units per day. We have 20 production lines and work 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. Impressive, right? Louise nodded. I didn't expect anything like this. Everything here is so sterile and organized, more like a hospital than a factory. As production director, thank you for the compliment. This is exactly the image we try to maintain. Production director, Brianni clarified. Nita nodded. Now I am a co-owner of the company. James offered me a share to make me feel financially secure. I don't have a very large share, but it strengthened my connection to him and the business. Why do you call him that? Brianni interrupted. Whom? James. You have a lot of nicknames for him. Nita laughed. This is an old joke. When I first met him, he said his name. It's quite common, and that's what I told him. He suggested that I call him something else if it bothered me so much. Since then, the joke has stuck. The women shook their heads. Nita smiled. She didn't care. What exactly are you doing? I understand your position, but I am the production director. I manage the operational side of the business. Bond handles sales, marketing, and finance. We have managers who are responsible for different functions. We set the direction and tackle the big issues. In recent years, I have taken several vacations, but always remained aware of what was happening. Is all this related only to vaping? Yes. It's amazing how big of a market it is, right? Most of the products are exported. Germany, Italy, the Middle East. Nita showed them the new cars and told them about the different product lines. The women were amazed by the bright aromas that reigned in the factory and the calm, organized atmosphere. They asked questions, and Nita answered them with restraint and confidence. When they returned to James' office, Louise sat in his chair, spun around, and looked at the photograph on the table. It was her in a bikini on the beach. Photos from their second honeymoon. She took it in her hands, remembering that day. Brianni looked at the photograph on the wall of her and her parents outside the house. She motioned for Louise. She came up and began to study the photograph. There were several photographs on the wall, including one of the two of them shortly after the start of her relationship with James. He misses you when he's here, Nita said quietly. Louise looked at her intently. They finished the inspection and returned to Nita's office. The women sat down again. Where is James? Asked Brianni. Today he works from home. It's even better for you. Why? Nita grinned at their naivety. What are you going to tell him? Louise looked at Brianni. Nita noticed their awkwardness and uncertainty. She gave them a minute, but when they didn't answer, she decided to continue herself. You don't have to tell me. I'm not his secretary. Nita, I'm sorry. We somehow started from the wrong place. I feel out of place and afraid of what's happening, Louise admitted. Nita reached out and patted her arm. Understand? I'm on your side, okay? Let me help. How are you going to build this conversation? To be honest, I'm not sure. I hoped that he would contact me himself, but he never called. Nita noticed the tension on her face. I didn't know what to do, and I still don't know. I came here hoping to fix everything. She took a deep breath before continuing. I hoped that inspiration would come to me. When I see him, I will know what to say. Nita nodded several times. That's why I said it's good that he's not here. You need to seriously consider this conversation. I think it will be decisive for your relationship. How is he? Asked Louise. Wounded. Very wounded. You offended him. I assure you, I didn't mean it, she objected. Is it true? But he doesn't think so. According to him, he tried to explain himself to you and your mothers, but he was sent to hell. I didn't think about what it might look like for him. But it was the most convenient way to accommodate everyone in the house. How could we have done it differently? I don't think James agrees with this, Nita said. But we sleep together when we come to her parents. They have a 3-room house. Her parents' bedroom, her brother Terry's room, and the guest room. The guest room is Brianni's former bedroom. There's a double bed. It wasn't anything strange or unusual. Nita looked at her skeptically. This look confused Louise. She felt that the beautiful Indian woman was ready to speak directly. What? What do you want to achieve with this conversation? I want him to come back. I want to fix everything. I know I offended him. I didn't think it was that important we just slept in the same bed. I want my husband back. Fine. Then know that lying will not help him. And if you want me to help you, I won't have to lie either. This is good advice. Nita saw the shock on the women's faces. She left her face blank. As the company's chief operating officer, she was used to negotiating with suppliers. These women weren't even close to that level. When James showed up late on Christmas Eve, the girls had already gone to bed. Knowing that Louise could arrive at any moment, they sat down and worked out a possible conversation in advance, built a strategy, and prepared options for the development of events. Usually Letchworth matters did not concern their time, but in the current situation, they broke the usual rules. We had a discussion over a glass of Bailey's and thoroughly prepared. The Letchworth ladies, on the other hand, looked like lambs before a butcher's knife. Why are we discussing this with you? Where's James? Brianni asked irritably. Please, if you want to talk to Mr. Houghton, for God's sake do it instead of me. With your preparation and honesty, everything will be great. What do you mean? Louise asked quietly. I mean, you have no idea. You haven't thought through anything, neither what you want nor what he wants. If you sit down with him now, he will ask you difficult questions. You have no idea how to have this conversation or answer these questions. He will crush you and your marriage will end. The woman sat amazed by her words. Nita saw them look at each other. She shrugged. Good luck, ladies. Let me know how it went. Brianni interceded. We don't know where he is. This was the only way to find him. We found the name of the company and came here. Can you tell me where he is, please? We can't even call him. Strange. She's married to him, and you don't know where he spends half his life. Why is this so? Don't you wonder what he does when he's not around? Or do you have other priorities? Nita asked, looking at Louise. The women thought. You hinted to Louise about the beds, Brianni finally said. Nita nodded encouragingly. You know something about us. Something that made you think Louise and I sleeping together at Christmas wasn't innocent. Nita raised an eyebrow. You hardly know us. We met once. The only way you could come to that conclusion is if James told you. So James doesn't think so. Nita clapped her hands. Do you see? With a little preparation, some of the nonsense can be eliminated. The women were silent. Nita saw their gaze, but was not going to make their task easier. Louise looked at Nita's left hand. She tried to remove it, but did not have time. You stopped wearing a wedding ring. You used to wear it, I remember. A married woman does this, especially if her husband works with a beauty like you. James told me that you and your husband have separated. I don't remember when it was. I think it was after our vow renewal ceremony. He said you were separated, but not divorced. Nita nodded. Yes, we separated 6 or 7 years ago. Are you seeing him? No. He is no longer a part of my life. But now the ring is gone. Are you still married? James said that because of your family, You can't get a divorce. I wanted to get rid of this misunderstanding of nature, but I didn't, more out of respect for my family's views on marriage than because of my feelings towards him. All three women smiled. But I still divorced him 3 or 4 years ago, Nita continued. I decided that he was just making my life difficult and had no value to me. So you are free now? Asked Briani with obvious curiosity. Why? Does this interest you? Nita winked. All three women laughed. I have a serious relationship. I don't want to get married again. My first marriage ruined this concept for me. But I'm happy. I have a loving relationship that I have built my family around. Does your family accept this? My family didn't like it. They hated that I got divorced, but they understood that the marriage was over. The divorce was simply a formality, an administrative completion. They didn't like what I had now either. They had some harsh comments. But sometimes a family differs from the usual idea: a man, a woman, 2 children. There is room for relationships that work differently. At first, it was difficult for them to accept my decisions. They were very different from their ideas. But to be honest, they accepted it. They see that I'm happy and it works for me. What do you think about my marriage? Louise asked unexpectedly. Nita fell silent, thinking about her answer. She noticed Briani turn sharply to Louise, staring at her in surprise. Perhaps there was more to the matter. I think your husband loves you deeply and sincerely. He is a special person. I think you are both incredibly lucky to have him in your lives. I think your marriage needs honest conversations so it has a chance of surviving. Do you want him to survive? Nita asked the question with the same directness as Louise. Of course, she answered firmly. There was silence in the room. Can you help me save my marriage? Louise asked quietly. Nita nodded. You may not think so, but I'm on your side. And on James's side. I want your marriage to survive. What you have is unusual, but it seems to be mostly working for both of you. She paused, considering what to say next. And for other people in your relationship. Bryony glanced at her quickly, her brows furrowed. She seemed about to say something, but Louise continued. I made a mistake. Yes, that's true. So what now? Will you fix it? Louise nodded. Nita turned to Bryony. What about you? What is your position? Bryony looked down. This is a difficult question. I love my life the way it is. I have everything I want. Almost everything. She paused, then added. You may find this hard to believe, but I love James. He is a great person, a good husband. I don't want anything to change because I'm afraid that change will be for the worse for me. Nita nodded slowly. When we realized that he had left, we thought that he had gone to her parents. He was tired after a long day and just wanted to sleep. Nobody worried he had the keys. We were all drinking and having fun. She paused, then took Louise's hand and squeezed it. Her parents called when they returned home. They noticed that the house was the same as they had left it and checked. James wasn't there. No note, no message, nothing. We tried to call him, but his phone was left on the table. He called, and we all heard, I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It by Katy Perry playing. Not too subtle, right? Nita laughed loudly and sincerely. James didn't tell her that detail. Bryony rolled her eyes. I know, it's stupid. He must have laughed when he chose this song. She turned to Louise. I told you, this is not a coincidence. And your honeymoon in Lesbos was not accidental either. I knew it was on purpose. Well, we've been exposed. Bryony laughed and Louise shook her head. She looked unhappy. When she realized that he was gone and no one knew where he was, she had a complete breakdown. I think she realized what she had done. The problem is that it was Christmas Eve. There was nothing we could do. They didn't know whether he was in Letchworth or Manchester. We didn't have the slightest idea. She snorted. No idea, no phone number to call. We knew he had a house here, but we don't have the address. There is a phone number, but we still have the phone. Apparently, he has another one for work. Nita nodded slowly. She, couldn't contact her husband. The husband who left on Christmas Day. It was a dark and dreary Christmas. His departure hung over the entire holiday. It took you a while to come here, Nita noted when Briani fell silent. She needed to come to her senses. We needed to find out where he works and how to get here. It took several days to work up the courage. We may not look like this, but we are afraid that everything is already ruined. How are you going to fix this? Nita looked at them. Her face remained expressionless. The women were silent. Are you ready to give up on each other? I don't want to lose either James or Briani, Louise quickly answered, quietly but firmly. Wow, no compromises. How can I make this choice? Either I'm losing the husband I love or my longtime girlfriend. If there is a way to save both, I have to find it. This life has been working for many years. Why change anything? Why can't I have both? She looked at Nita, and she noticed a challenge in her eyes. In any case, you will lose something, Nita noted. Louise nodded. My relationship with Briani does not threaten my marriage. At least that's what I think. I am capable of loving two people. Others may love two or more people. I have enough love. And you, Briani? Can you share? Briani laughed. You have the most incredible questions, Nita. I would like to be in a monogamous relationship with Lou. I loved her all my life. But we don't work well together. Everything becomes too emotional, too caught up in our thoughts. James fits into our lives. He breaks this emotional knot. I can share. He is a good person, and I like him. He has always been so friendly and accepting. What if he wants to share it with you too? Nita asked, raising an eyebrow. What? Louise immediately responded. What if James says something like, I don't mind you being with Briani, but I want to have fun with her too? Louise looked at Briani, and Nita noticed how the shock of her question was reflected on their faces. Oh, come on, ladies, Nita continued. What if he wants to watch, or even join? This is not such an uncommon question for a heterosexual man whose wife is attracted to girls, is it? Briani and Louise stared at each other, surprise and horror on their faces. They both missed Nita's playful smile. When they came to their senses, her face became inscrutable again. Don't know. This question was never raised. Perhaps we should think about it. This may be exactly what will save your marriage. Briani and Louise looked at each other again, but said nothing. Nita saw that her words made them think. She saw how they thought about what she said. There was a whole silent conversation going on in their facial expressions. This was the most interesting thing that had happened to her recently. Briani paused to collect her thoughts. I think I would agree. If he insists, I'm not attracted to him. Sounds bad. I'm not attracted to men at all, but I like him very much. I'm probably closer to him than to Terry. I know it sounds cheeky considering I'm in a relationship with his wife, but he's important to me. He's a good person. I think we could do it. There was silence in the room. Nita saw Louise reach out and squeeze Briani's hand. Ladies, I think all this can be fixed. I like that you're both willing to consider your options, but I think you should consider what I said before you sit down to talk. And now it's time for me. Want to meet Jimsky? Briani looked at Louise and nodded. Nita led them to the office. I'm disappearing, girls. Call if there are problems, Nita said, leaving. The goodbye chorus escorted them out the door. Follow me. Although, do you have a navigator? She gave them a zip code, and they set off in separate cars. Nita arrived home first. She knew the route and parked near the house. She watched as two women struggled to squeeze into the gap a few cars away. She waited until they arrived. I didn't expect this. It's a pretty decent area, Briani said. Nita smiled at her and pointed to the first house. Oh yes, it's very middle-class Manchester. You won't be robbed with a knife here. In this area, you're more likely to get a warrant. This is my house, and this one next to me is Jimbo. These are big houses. Victorian, right? 3 bedrooms, stone. Beauty. I can see why James bought one of these. They're probably worth a fortune now. Are you neighbors? He never spoke. Nita nodded. Yes, that's how we met. I knew there was a white guy living next door, but nothing about him. I don't want to seem rude, but all white guys look the same to me. He kept to himself, and at that time I was not social at all. My marriage was falling apart, then broke up, and I was healing my wounds. I got a job in a factory, and then I realized that my neighbor was my boss. She beckoned them to follow her, walked to her door, and let them inside. Her guests stood awkwardly, looking around the spacious, open room. "Wow," said Briani. "From the outside, I would never have thought it was like this here." Nita smiled. "When we decided to live together, we thought about how best to arrange it. So everyone thinks that we are neighbors and we have different houses. But as soon as you open the door, you can see that we have combined them into one big house." Louise and Briani were busy exploring the combined corridor. It was obvious that a lot of money had been spent merging the houses. The result was amazing. The space was open, bright, and well laid out. This house was no less beautiful than the one in which they lived. "Do you live together?" Louise asked, but before she could continue, an excited scream was heard. "Mommy, mommy, mommy." A little girl with black hair ran up to them and grabbed Nita's legs. She picked it up, lifting the weight with a groan. "You, girl, eat too many samosas. I can barely lift you." The girl smiled happily and hugged her mother. Both women looked at them. It was hard not to be moved by this scene. James entered the room carrying a baby in his arms. As soon as the child saw Nita, he began to escape from his arms to get his share of hugs. Nita carefully placed her eldest daughter on the floor and took the baby from James. James walked up to Nita and kissed her on the cheek. "Hello, Louise, Briani. Welcome to Manchester." James, "I." Louise began, but he shook his head. "Calm down, Lou. We'll have time to talk. It is important that this is a proper conversation and not a hasty one. Are you staying the night?" Briani and Louise looked at each other, uncertainty evident on their faces. "We have a guest room. There's a double bed. I'm sure you can share it for at least one night. You've already practiced." He went into the kitchen. Giggling, Nita followed him. The women followed them, looking around the house. "Tea, coffee. I've already started marinating the chicken for dinner. It'll be ready as soon as we get ready to cook," James said. He prepared the drinks, and everyone sat down at the table. The older girl sat down next to her and continued coloring, despite the fact that she had previously interrupted this process to greet her mother. The youngest settled comfortably on Nita's lap. To complete the introduction, "You already know Nita. This is Jasminder and Aisha," said James. Louise and Briani looked at the girls. "How old are they?" asked Louise. "Jas just turned 3 years old, and Aisha is 1 year old," Nita answered. Louise turned to Nita. "They look a lot like you." "Don't know. I always think they look more like Jim, especially Jas," Nita answered. She watched as Louise's expression changed as she realized what Nita meant. Louise looked at James, a look of sadness and pain on her face. "We have a lot to discuss, Louise." "A lot. Briani, I'm glad you're here. You are part of this conversation." "I don't want to discuss this without you," James said, taking a sip of tea. "James," Louise said quietly to him, "can I hug you? I missed you so much." He nodded and walked towards her. She pressed herself against him, and he felt her sobbing quietly into his shoulder. He hugged her, feeling tears forming in his eyes. It was a long hug before they pulled away, wiping their eyes. "I missed you too, Louise. Please don't think for a second, despite all this, that I don't love or value you. That's not true," he said. "I'm sorry for my stupidity, and for the fact that I hurt you," Louise whispered. "Quiet. Let's just hug, calm down, and find balance. Take your time." "You haven't hugged me for a long time, so enjoy the moment," he replied. She pressed herself against him again, and he lowered his face to her hair and inhaled its scent deeply. "I missed you, honey," he whispered. They held each other for a few more minutes before they sat back down at the table. Louise wiped away her tears. "My mother was simply heartbroken when she realized that you were gone. She made me promise that the first thing I would do was apologize to you on her behalf," Louise said. James looked at Briani. "I hope I didn't ruin your Christmas." You caught me at a moment when I was absolutely exhausted. I didn't have the strength to stop and explain myself properly. I simply walked away so as not to say or do anything that could cause irreparable harm to either us or other people. We didn't sleep together. I went home to my parents both nights, Louise said. James shrugged, sitting back down. You didn't have to do this for me, Louise. I wanted you to know, James, that I didn't disrespect you, she replied. I think we have different definitions of respect, he said. Maybe we can discuss this after the kids go to bed, Nita suggested, noticing how Jasminder's large brown eyes were following the conversation with interest. Do you have enough food for us? Brianni asked, looking a little unsure. James nodded. Nita called from the car and said that she was taking you home. I have prepared enough for everyone. Are you ready for dinner? When both women nodded, he stood up and began moving around the kitchen. He had done a lot of the preparation in advance, so all that was left was to cook. What are you cooking? Asked Brianni, craning her neck to look. Methai chicken, rice, dal, and roti, James replied. Sounds delicious. I've never cooked this for us, she noted. This is an Indian dish. We eat it quite often, he explained. James continued cooking while listening to Nita interact with their guests. He soon noticed that Louise was already sitting with Aisha in her arms, and Brianni was helping Jasminder with coloring. Dinner was a success. The food was delicious. Guests noticed that James prepared the dish entirely himself, including the bread. Several times Nita switched to another language while communicating with Jasminder, mainly reprimanding her for her bad manners. This is Gujarati, one of the major Indian languages. Nita's family is from there. We use it at home, James explained, noticing Louise's questioning look. When James spoke the same language some time later, Louise turned to him in surprise. Do you speak this language?
Yeah.
When we started planning for children, seriously planning, we decided that it was important that they speak the languages of both cultures. So I had to take lessons, he said with a smile. Louise shook her head. James saw the sadness on her face. She dreamed of such a family scene, but now she felt like an outsider. Her gaze followed Nita, who was busy with the children, doing their evening chores. The envy written all over Louise's face was obvious, and it pained James to see how she dealt with it. Louise, Brianni, do you want to help with bathing the children? Nita called. The guests each took a child, and under Nita's guidance, they helped bathe them and put them to bed. James went to the girls' rooms to read them stories and put them to bed for good. Returning to the kitchen, he found the women at the table. Anyone want a drink? He asked, pouring drinks and laying out light snacks. Well, he said, sitting down, the cat is out of the bag. You now know about me and Nita. I am the father of girls, and although we are not married, we are in a serious relationship. I know about you and Brianni, and as far as I know, there are no secrets between us. Unless you have something really unexpected to say. There was silence in the room as they each considered what to say next. Okay, I'll start, James continued. I don't want to get a divorce. I'm happy with my life. I can accept the fact that you are together when I am not around. But what you did for Christmas was too much for me. It was embarrassing and, in my opinion, inappropriate. I have always followed our vows carefully. I knew it, Brianni put in with a hint of satisfaction in her voice. That's what that vow renewal ceremony was for. Louise looked at James, and he nodded, agreeing with Brianni. She's right. I uncovered you too and thought about what to do next, he said. You overheard us in the garden, Brianni interrupted, shaking her head. I told you he understood. Yes, it only took 10 years. Why didn't you say anything? Asked Louise. I needed time to think about what I wanted. You wouldn't want to hear my first reaction. I came here to give myself time and distance to think, James explained. And then there was that ceremony, Louise clarified. She evened the odds. This made us equal. You were true to your vows, and I was true to mine. I was. I've never violated them, not even once, Louise objected hotly. I know, and I didn't break them either. Just change them a little after realizing how close you and Briani are. So you and Nita, strictly after the renewal of vows. I did the same as you. My vows are important to me. But make no mistake, that's why I did it, he said. James saw the expressions on the guests' faces change. Their emotions were read like an open book. I would like everything to go back to the way it was before Christmas. But I want to strengthen the connections between my two lives. I want Nita and the girls to come to us sometimes on weekends and for both of you to visit us here. Briani, you are part of this family, and I want you to be a part of its life. Considering how important you are to Louise and to me, I want you to be a part of the girls' lives too. Nita looked around and, without waiting for anyone else to speak, added, I don't want you to get a divorce. I have what I wanted. And even though I share a man, something I never thought I'd do, it works for us and for the kids. My family has come to terms with this. Not to say that they are happy, but they see that it works and therefore do not complain much. I would love to be more involved in your lives when we're not here, and for the girls to know their extended family on James' side. How do you cope when James isn't around? Isn't it hard with girls? Asked Briani. When Jimmy leaves, my mother comes to my aid. It's a way for her to get away from my dad and family, and she loves spending time with her granddaughters. She closes the gaps that James leaves. It even brought my mother and I closer and helped improve our relationship, Nita answered. Are the girls coping with his absence? Yes, this is normal for us. Family life has changed. It is no longer mom, dad, and children. Many families at Jas Kindergarten are either single parents or same-sex couples. They appreciate him more when he's here. When he comes back, they are literally hanging on him. It's so cute. I'll ask directly, how do you cope with the fact that you know that he is leaving for another woman? Just like you when he comes home and Louise puts you in second place, Nita replied, pausing to think. I think it's better to focus on what you have rather than what you don't. I think this is the key to happiness in life. If you constantly worry about what someone else has, and you don't, it only makes you unhappy. I am grateful for the time we have together and try to make it as joyful and enjoyable as possible. Briani nodded. I think I agree. When she's with me, I want her to be with me with all her heart and soul, and that's what happens. If I worry about her and James, it will drive me crazy with jealousy and comparison. I've been studying this for years. There was silence as everyone considered what they had said. James was the first to break it. Well, you know where I stand and where Nita stands. We were honest and frank with you. Please respond to us in the same way. Louise, Briani, it's your turn to show your cards. What do you want? Do you want a divorce? He said this in a calm tone, but every word was difficult for him. I don't want a divorce, Louise replied. I want you to be my husband again. She fell silent, tilting her head to the side. I want Briani in my life. I love her. Louise looked at Briani, who, hearing her words, turned to her. Briani's cheeks flushed red, and everyone noticed the tears glistening in her eyes. I know I should have told you this a long time ago, James, but I love Briani. She is a huge part of my life, and I don't even want to imagine that she might not be in it. Just like I can't imagine life without you. You both are two halves of me, Louise said. Why didn't you tell me? Asked James. Louise laughed quietly. It's simple. By the time I started to worry about what you would think, I didn't want to ruin what we had. I was afraid that if you found out that Briani and I were an inseparable duo, you would run away. But you were not a duet. I only had you, James objected. Louise looked at Briani before answering. Briani could live with sharing me, but not sharing you. James and Nita both turned to Briani with a question in their eyes. A bad experience with a guy when I was younger, Briani replied, raising her hand to stop the questions. Not bad enough to worry about, but enough that it would put me off. I get very nervous around men I don't know well. What about work at school? You never said anything about this, Louise asked. It's easier at school. There's always a desk between me and any man. I provide this. And as for keeping quiet, let's be honest, I'm pretty good at keeping secrets. Brianni replied. The room was silent again for a moment as everyone digested what had been said. Do you agree to continue living the way we lived before Christmas? Half a week? Asked James. Yes, with occasional trips or family holidays, Louise nodded. But by agreement, without abuse, James added. Louise nodded. Sorry for what happened. I thought you didn't know about us, and I didn't understand why you were so angry. I thought it was just fatigue or irritation. I should have listened to you and thought about it. James shrugged. Nothing can be changed now except to prevent this from happening again. I don't want to come home and find you in bed with Brianni or think it's her turn. If I'm around, I always come first. I can agree with this. What if Nita comes to us too? Louise asked carefully. Then we'll decide on the spot every time. Most likely, you will have to share a bed with Brianni, but we will discuss everything, James replied. Maybe I'll want to sleep with Brianni myself, Nita put in with a playful smile. James knew her well enough to know it was a joke, but judging by the looks on Louise and Brianni's faces, they took it seriously. She's joking. Don't worry, Louise, James reassured her. I wasn't worried, Louise quickly answered, but it was clear that her words did not correspond to reality. I was worried, James insisted. That horror on your face was real. You should have seen their faces when I suggested that you might want to sleep with them. I thought one of them was about to faint, Nita laughed, noticing how James grinned at her words. It was no worse than my expression when I realized that you were in a relationship with Nita, Louise replied. Look, I think I can handle this. I like what we had and still have. I would like to spend time with the girls and with Nita. If she's important to you, she's important to me. But this raises another question. I want children. James turned to Brianni. Brianni, what do you want in all this? Your opinion is as important as anyone else's. Brianni looked between James and Louise, noticing how he ignored her comment about children. James turned his head slightly, making it clear that he was waiting for her answer. I'm happy if everything stays as it is. I told Nita earlier that you were so generous to me. I don't think that if we were in the opposite situation, I could be as kind to you. But the main thing for me is Louise, and so that everything remains as it is, so that you remain in her life. I know she's unhappy when it's just me around. How do you know this? Nita interrupted. We tried it back at university. We were attracted to each other from the very first meeting. We tried a few times, little by little, but it didn't work out. It didn't work out until Louise started dating James. What? How does this work? I don't know. We talked a lot about this, trying to understand whether it was fear of being judged by society or whether she actually loves both men and women. Everything was getting too intense and nothing was working out for us. But when she started dating James, the dynamic changed for both of us. Seriously? It was like a weight had been lifted off our shoulders and we could just be together and enjoy it. In an ideal world, I would be with someone all the time, someone who would belong only to me. But there is something about Louise that attracts me. She has the same effect on me as she does on James. She draws us towards her. I don't want to lose her. This is my wish. I'm glad everything is finally out in the open. I hated hiding it. I felt dishonest in the most important aspect of my life, and it was wrong. So, is everyone happy? Do I understand correctly? Did everyone get what they wanted? Asked Nita. James looked around the room. Nita asked a question. He looked at her. She nodded. Brianni nodded slowly. He looked at Louise. I want children too. Louise's voice was quiet, but everyone in the room heard it. You already have children with Nita. You know how long I've wanted a family. I want to have children with you. This needs to be discussed. You've put this off for too long. This will not happen. The three women's heads turned to him at the same time. I don't care. Excuse my French. I'm not going to have children with you. Not today. Not tomorrow. Never, damn it. He saw all three of them recoil from his words. Louise was speechless. He could see her struggling to find words. What? She finally squeezed out. He saw tears welling up in her eyes. I'll be happy to stay married to you and continue our life. This includes sex, lovemaking, whatever you want to call it. An active sex life is part of our relationship. But I'm not going to make you a baby. Damn, Nita breathed quietly, sitting next to her. He remained silent, watching as Louise struggled with herself, trying to pull herself together. I don't understand. I agree with her, James. Why don't you want children with her? Asked Brianni. I thought you wanted children. Honey, even I'm confused. We didn't discuss this. I'm not against you and Louise having children. I even expected it. James shrugged. I am satisfied with the children that I already have. I thought we were planning to have children. Sorry, Louise, I purposefully avoided this topic. I offered you the opportunity to have children a couple of times. Each time the price was too high for you. You made your own choice. He saw Louise mulling over his words. You wanted me to give up Brianni. Why did I have to give up my friendship with Brianni? How does this relate to children? She looked confused, but continued. That was before you found out about my relationship with Brianni. I don't understand. Even if it was a problem then, now you know about us. How does my relationship with Brianni relate to children? James saw Nita and Brianni following their conversation. You had a choice then. You could have abandoned your mistress and started a family with me. I didn't say it directly, but it was a choice I gave you, even before I realized what your relationship was like. And more than once. I even said I would sell the business, move to Letchworth permanently, and we could start a family. I gave you this choice. The only thing I demanded was that you give up Brianni, your mistress. The price was too high. Now I don't have to give up Brianni. Now everything is in sight. I have my own relationship with Brianni, and you know about it. You have a family with Nita, and I know about it. Exactly. We're fine. Everyone has what they want. But I don't understand. Why can't we have children? James looked at all three, seeing the same confusion on their faces. Perhaps I didn't express myself clearly enough. This offer was limited in time, and you rejected it. Now it is no longer on the table. You can't give up Brianni and go back to what we had. Or rather, you can give up Brianni, but I've already moved on. No matter what happens between you and Brianni, you and I will not have children. I will maintain my relationship with Nita. The offer I made is no longer valid. I have offered it again and again in different forms. But once all the secrets were revealed, this proposal became invalid. Why? Seriously, James, I don't understand. You say you love me, I believe you. I know I love you. I would be a wonderful mother. Our families would fully support us. My parents want us to have children. My mom dreams about this. I see how much you love being a father. What's the problem? Don't you want to make love to me? Her voice grew louder as she continued to speak. Nita raised her hand. Louise, give me a minute, okay? Perhaps I can help clear this up a little. James, can you help us understand this better? I don't understand anything. When we discussed what everyone wanted, this was not even discussed. Exactly, because this is not an option. This is not on the list. Nita heard a groan from Louise and saw Brianni whispering something to her, trying to calm her down. Why is this not on the list? I understand her point of view. The desire to have children is very strong for a woman. You know how much I wanted this. I have a feeling she's in the same position. I asked her what she wanted. I asked everyone, and we found a solution that suits everyone's needs. It's not perfect, but it works. Now something else is being added. This is a significant something. Yes, and I don't agree with that. Did you think that this was a significant enough issue to ruin the entire agreement? James shrugged. If we don't come to an agreement, I'll tell you how it will happen. Louise and I are getting a divorce. I'm moving to Manchester full-time. You and Brianni are leaving my home and my life. Louise leaves without needing a job for the rest of her life. She will do well. A house for rent in Letchworth. This is cruel. I love this house. This is my home. I would buy it from you. Is this cruel? Don't think. You will leave the marriage with a lot of money and Brianni. I won't sell the house. It's my parents' house. There is no scenario where we get divorced and you end up with this house. James, I don't want to get a divorce. I thought we were moving forward to work things out. Most men would be happy to hear from a woman that she wants their children. We've been married for almost 15 years, and I still tell you, I love you. I want to be with you, and I want to have children with you. You say you love me, so why don't you want to have children with me? James didn't answer immediately. He could see that Louise was upset, and his categorical refusal left all three women in shock and confusion. He himself did not know exactly how to explain his feelings about this. He was absolutely sure that the answer was no way, but how could he explain that in a way that they would understand? This turned out to be more difficult. No one on this planet can force me to have children if I don't want to. I love you. Despite all the lies and betrayal, I am ready to spend the rest of my days with you. I have a responsibility to Nita and the family we created together. But having children with you? No, thanks. James, Nita said again, I think it's hard for all of us to understand why. We can see how strong your feelings are, but perhaps it would be helpful if you explained why you feel this way. Does it matter why? This is my decision, and I accepted it. I understand that you three don't like it, and maybe you don't understand it. But I don't think the reason matters here. This is a categorical no. Perhaps if there was an explanation, this no would become more bearable. James took a slow, deep breath. I will try. I don't think this will help, but you want to know why. He took a sip of wine, wondering how to put his feelings into words. This request, given the way it is being made, seems disrespectful to me. I feel like a stallion in a stable being put out to do his job. It seems to me that you haven't thought about how it looks on my part when you make such a demand. It's like what happened at Christmas with a sleepover proposal. It seemed reasonable to you, but it was completely disrespectful on my part. I've been telling you for years that I want a child or a family. I want to be a mother and raise children, your children. Sorry if I seem repetitive or hysterical, but I feel like you are ignoring my wishes. Now you know that I don't ignore it. I say I don't want this. James, Louise's cry of protest pierced the air. Everyone saw how hard it was for her to hold back her tears. I'll try to explain again. I suggested you have children. The condition was that you give up Brianni, and I would give you children. You said no. More precisely, you never directly said no. You simply did not answer. You reproached me for giving you a choice. From my point of view, you had a chance to have children with me, but you considered the cost too high. You chose not to have children. Now you demand that I give you what you want, and still not ready to pay the price. He shook his head. No, no, no. You had the chance, more than once, and you turned it down. It's unfair. How? How the hell was I unfair? Why should I give up Brianni to have children? Let's think about it. Why should abandoning one's mistress be a condition for having children with one's husband? I don't know. This is very unreasonable on my part, isn't it? Have children in a loving relationship, where parents are loyal and honest with each other. Now that you asked, I do seem pretty damn unfair. James stood up and forcefully placed his glass on the table. Lady, I'm going to bed. I understand that the conversation is not over yet, but if you try to put pressure on me now, I promise it won't go in your favor. Nita, please show our guests to their room. Good night, ladies. James left the room. They spent Saturday together as a family. They took the tram to Manchester and spent the day walking around the city, showing off its various sights. With two small children, there were plenty of stops for cakes and drinks. James noticed that Louise and Bryony were beginning to feel how cosmopolitan Manchester was and grinned. He knew they would like this place if they gave it a chance. Shall we talk tonight? Louise asked as they walked together, holding little Jass's hands. I didn't plan. I thought we'd go out and have some fun tonight. Let's spend some time together, the four of us. I've made arrangements with Nita's mom to look after the kids for the night, and we'll talk tomorrow morning before picking them up. Will this suit you? Then you can go home on Sunday afternoon. Is school on Monday? On Sunday morning, all the adults gathered at the table. Saturday evening turned out to be a real holiday. All four of them danced, drank, ate and laughed to their heart's content. Serious conversations were put aside as they were in the presence of children, and everyone focused on spending quality time together. James found it difficult to watch Louise and Brianni together, just as it was difficult for Louise when he was with Nita and the children. He wasn't surprised at how well Louise and Brianni got along with the girls. Both girls were happy to talk to them and share what they were doing. "Thanks for this weekend, James. I really liked it," Brianni began. "Please, and I say this sincerely, it's hard for me that you stayed away for so long. Work brought me here first, but now I love this place as much as Letchworth. A different atmosphere, but it also became a part of me. I think if we knew—" Louise began, but stopped short. "Yes, with all this secrecy, it would be difficult," James said, predicting where she was going. "Okay," said Nita. "Let's get started. Where are we now? Does everyone agree to live as before? However, Louise, there is a question about children. You want them, but James doesn't. This seems to be a stumbling block. Louise, do you still want children?" Louise shrugged. "This is important for me. I want to be a mother. I want to raise a family. James, do you have any other thoughts on this?" James shook his head. "Fine. So how can we overcome this? Can we overcome this? Bryony, what do you think about this?" Bryony leaned forward. She spoke slowly, savoring every word. "I think I'm on the same wavelength as Louise. The question for me is, what will change your mind, James? You know Louise would be a great mom. I see it even when you're not around. Her parents would like you to have children. Hell, even my parents want it. This doesn't bother Nita. So what will change your mind?" James ignored her question and turned to Nita. "How do you look at this? For me, this is not such a problem. I have the family I wanted, and if we get our time with you and don't become a second-class family, then I'm probably more on their side. What's the harm in this? Lots of sex with Louise to get her pregnant. This is not a problem for you. I know how much you love children and how wonderfully you cope with the role of a father. You work from home so many times to spend the day with the girls, and you love that time. We always agreed that what happens in Letchworth stays there, and what happens in Manchester stays in Manchester, and you always stick to that. When we're together, I don't think you're with Louise. You are with us. You don't write or call me when you're in Letchworth. These are two different worlds. I don't feel threatened by you and Louise having a baby. Now that we get together as one group, it can be even better. We can get closer thanks to a child." She paused to take a sip of tea. "I understand where Louise is coming from. This desire to have a child is very strong, powerful. For women, it is truly irresistible. I feel like you have strong feelings about this too, but why compromise what we have over this? For me, give her kids and we can all enjoy it together." "Fine. Thank you," James replied. Everything went exactly as he expected. All three had a different opinion from him. He was a little surprised to hear Nita speaking on the side of women. He thought she would support him. None of them understood his point of view. "My opinion hasn't changed, and I'm not sure how we can move forward. You want children, and I made it clear that I don't want them. How would you feel if she started it with someone else?" Brianni asked with a slight smile. Good question. I think that if she wants a child from someone else, it will be outside of our marriage. Our marriage will end without discussion. As soon as I find out that Louise is pregnant, I will file for divorce. What if you become a father? It will be against my will, and I won't like it. The marriage will end anyway. So I have two options. Stay with you and not have children, or leave you and have children. Yes, I think so. This is a really lousy choice you're giving me. I know. You could have given up Brianni to have children, and we know what choice you made. You chose not to have children for her sake. She turned out to be more important. Now I'm giving you the same choice, but now it's either me or the kids. For Brianni's sake, you said no to the children. She was more important. How will you choose now? Am I more important? He saw how Louise understood the meaning of his words. Her face darkened, and a wave of pain was reflected on it. That's not the only reason I'm saying no, Louise. But this is also part. Bryony couldn't give me children. You can. And I didn't say no to the children then. I just didn't accept this choice. This is different. He shook his head. No, if you had given up Bryony, we would have had children. You would show me that life with me is more important than your life with Bryony. But you didn't. You showed me that at that moment your relationship with Bryony was more important than the children with me. When I realized this, everything became obvious. If the relationship with me is not the first place, if I am not the main priority, then I do not want to bring children into this relationship. I can love you both. I love you both. Yes, but she is number one. I'm not going to have children with a man for whom I come second. You are not in second place. I married you. You couldn't marry Bryony. Not when we got married. It wasn't legal, right? I didn't want to marry her. I wanted to marry you. Yes, but it wasn't a marriage, right? You didn't reject anyone for me, did you? From the very first day, even before our wedding, you cheated on me. We were in different relationships. More precisely, I was in one, but for a long time I did not understand it. I didn't cheat. Never. I kept my vows. Games. You're playing damn games. You were dishonest. You never told me that my ideas about our marriage were wrong. You hid your relationship with Bryony from me. You know full well that I would never have married you if I had known you and Bryony were together, which is why you hid everything. You lied to me over and over again. You cheated on me. All these vows are just a convenient excuse to make yourself feel better, and you know it. James, Nita's voice interrupted him. Can you pause for 5 minutes, walk around the block, and buy milk from the store at the same time? James got up from the table and left the room. He put on his sneakers and slipped out the door. Feeling his blood boil with anger, he knew that Nita had done the right thing by taking him out of the room so that he would not say something that could not be taken back later. As he was leaving the house, he heard Louise crying in the kitchen. He didn't feel guilty. It's time for her to realize what she's done to their marriage and understand how he feels. The cool morning air helped calm him, and by the time he returned home, his thoughts were clear again. He entered the kitchen. The three women remained sitting in their places. He put the milk in the refrigerator and offered everyone tea. Having made himself and Nita a cup each, he sat back down at the table. "Are you okay?" Nita asked, and he nodded. "How is she?" he asked, nodding towards Louise. "I think she's starting to understand how much of a mountain she's going to have to deal with." "Nita, I don't want to give false hope. I don't see how this situation can end with her and I having children. I just don't see it." "That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about saving your marriage. And in my opinion, although this is just my 2 cents, you shouldn't write this question off completely. This is too important a topic. I think you should think about what conditions you need. But if you insist that this will never happen, your marriage is doomed, and we will all lose." "Will you lose too, Nita?" asked Bryony. "In case of divorce, looks like you'll get James all the way." "What I don't want," Nita answered calmly. "I was already married, and I'm no longer going to depend on a man. I'm happy with the way things are now. Maybe it's more an illusion than reality. However, I like it. If James were with me all the time, our relationship would change in a direction that I don't want. He would be with me at work all day and at home all evening. This won't work. We would just fall apart. His absence gives me freedom." Everyone listened to her carefully. James noticed the nods of those around her, confirming their understanding of her words. Louise raised her head. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying. He guessed that while he was gone, Nita had told her some hard truths. "James, you were never a second choice. Never. Not for me." He shook his head. "Sorry, Louise, you may say it, but your actions say otherwise. Bryony knew what was going on, but I didn't. Bryony had the choice to end your relationship if she didn't want to share you. I didn't have that choice. If you had a choice between a family life with me and a relationship with Bryony, you weren't willing to sacrifice it. How does that make me the first choice? Now I put you before the same choice, either me or the children. You're making the opposite choice. I'm not your first choice. never was. You understand what our marriage looks like from my point of view, right? He saw her words reach her. A look of horror appeared on her face as she began to understand the meaning of his words. I didn't want this. Honestly, I didn't want to. James, I love you. I have always loved you. You must believe me. I believe, but like I said, every time Brianni gets involved, I end up second best. I don't doubt your love for me, that's obvious. But for me to want kids with you, I have to be better than just a second choice. She shook her head, repeating quietly, You're not second, I swear. You were never second. I have to show her that she is important to me because for her she comes second to you. When you're around, she doesn't get me. She sees me with you, and I know how much it hurts her. So sometimes I have to show her that she is important to me too. She's really important, but you are not second. It feels different from this side of the table. Do you understand why, if I feel like I'm second to you, I don't want to have children with you? She nodded. I promise you, you're not second. Words, Lou, just words, but your actions say otherwise. Now let's go further. I feel like I'm second only to Brianni, that when you have a choice, you choose her over me. I explained why I felt this way, and nothing you said changed my mind. He saw all three women looking at him. Yes, we discussed it. I'm the second choice. Now imagine that we have children. You're with them all the time. I'm a part-time dad because I'm gone half the week. Brianni is always there, when I'm at home in the background, when I'm not in the foreground. He took a sip of his drink, wincing at the hot tea. Both of your families were so quick to tell me they would make better grandparents. I don't have a family. I'll be pushed to the margins and, at best, become a part-time dad on your terms. You will go to your parents on weekends and to Brianni's parents too. I won't be able to object because the children need grandparents and you work all week. And when can I be a father? He shook his head. I will be at the bottom of the queue. I will have little influence. You say you want children from me. But if you think about how much time I can be with the children, it becomes clear that I am just a donor. You'll have children, you'll have Brianni, but what's left for me? My prediction, a year or two of shitty existence, where I'm your second choice and a part-time father, and then you and her divorce me and happily move away with the kids. James. Are you asking me to trust you, Louise? Damn, that's bold. Look what happened last time I trusted you. 10 years later, I find out that you cheated on me with your best friend. You have a terrible reputation for honesty, as well as for making me a priority. Damn it. Brianni spoke loud enough to be heard. Yes, now I understand it too, Nita added gloomily. I haven't seen this before, but now I understand why you're so reluctant. Sorry, James, I didn't catch up. It was difficult to explain in words. Explain how I feel and why I am so strongly against it. I hope you see the problem now. Nita and Brianni nodded. Louise looked dumbfounded. Okay, now you can think about how to solve it, because frankly, I can't. He made eye contact with each of the women in turn. I'll say this, because I love you, and you should be happy that I love you. Because I'm a reasonable person. I'm willing to say that children with you are not completely excluded. But before that happens, everything I said has to change. Real changes, not cosmetic ones where you claim that something has changed, but I don't notice it. Real, tangible change. Then I will give my consent to have children. She didn't look any happier. He saw her thinking, but he couldn't think of anything. You and Brianni created this situation. You played me like a fool. Now, if you want to make things right, that's up to you. Next weekend, I will be at home as before. If you try to put pressure on me about the children, I will leave and come back here. I will try to be a positive part of the solution. I will listen. I will be patient. But I don't know how to fix this. Honestly, I'm angry that I'm being asked to do this. I didn't cheat. I didn't create this damn mess. It was you two who played a double game. Now the ball is in your court. He stirred the tea in his mug, looking at him. Ladies, when you cheat, you ruin everything. Absolutely everything. Challenge accepted, Louise replied simply to her husband. The children were returned by their grandmother, and Louise and Brianni joined James, Nita, and the girls for a roast chicken dinner before heading to Letchworth. James noticed that Louise was already beginning to think about the situation, and this made him smile. He liked her determination. She received the answer and was now going to move mountains to achieve her goal. This is the kind of woman he once married, the kind he loved. He wondered what she would do. James promised to come back next weekend and return everything to the way it was before Christmas. Louise carefully wrote down the address and took not only James's second phone number, but also Nita's number. Over the next few weeks, James noticed something was changing. As promised, he came for the weekend and spent it with Louise. Brianni went to live with her parents, leaving them some space. The weekend was all about reconnecting, and James had a smile on his face when he returned to Manchester. Louise did not disappoint him. He was curious how she would handle the situation. He knew that she was talking to Nita, but he did not know the content of their conversations. "What's your plan?" he asked her, holding a glass of wine in his hand. "You can have 100% of the small pie. This is our marriage." Once Nita and Brianni got involved, the math changed. Now we have 50% of the larger pie. What we have lost is compensated by what we have gained. This is basic economics. You can't argue with that. My job is to make the pie good enough. Understood. This might work. Okay, so you understand me. My family, Brianni's family, Nita's family all want what we want. Happy, stable family dynamics with children. I will get their support. They will help make this pie even bigger. They will help us remember why we are doing this. Will this work? Time will show. But this was the only option I saw to answer your concerns. To lift a stone and shed light on what we do and why. Trust and share with the people we love. Ask for their support and participation. There is a win for everyone here. They just need to work with us to achieve it. They must help us hold on to our commitments. Work remained work. His life with Nita in Manchester continued. He easily returned to his usual rhythm. This kind of life suited him. He had two beautiful, intelligent female partners. There were children, there was work, there was friendship with Brianni. Brianni avoided him the first weekend after his return, but the following weekend everything returned to normal. She carried on as usual, and her relationship with Louise remained out of James's sight while he was around, for which he was grateful to both for their tact. He took Nita and the girls to Letchworth for the February holidays. Louise and Brianni absolutely charmed the two little girls and also took on the role of nannies, giving Nita and James the opportunity to spend the evening together, something parents always appreciate. James saw that Louise and Brianni were doing everything they could to make their unusual situation work for everyone. When Louise was around him, even in Nita's presence, she made him feel like he was the center of her attention. Brianni remained unobtrusively in the background. This dynamic surprised James. Even though James was happy, somewhere deep down he expected something to go wrong. He knew there were conversations going on in which he was not a part. He knew that Louise and Brianni were communicating with Nita, and that the three of them were discussing everything and getting to know each other better. It didn't bother him. He loved Louise and Nita and had warm feelings for Brianni. He knew they were working on his challenge to Louise, and he was glad that he himself was not immersed in this mess. The first major shift happened one weekend in March. Louise and Brianni arrived in Manchester. Everything was planned and went perfectly. But on Sunday morning, Nita's mum dropped off the two girls and stayed to meet Louise and Brianni. This took James by surprise. The meeting was peaceful and everyone was friendly. Everyone introduced themselves properly, drank tea and coffee, and talked. At Easter, James took Nita and the girls back to Letchworth to spend time with the family. The idea was to take advantage of the school holidays and spend time together as an extended family. This time they were joined by Louise and Brianni's families. They rented a house nearby through a rental website and negotiated a good price for 2 weeks. After apologizing for Christmas, everyone focused on getting to know Nita and the girls. James found it a little strange to watch everyone interact. There was some caution to not offend anyone, but it was nice to see a bond begin to form between the different groups. Several conversations took place where it was clearly explained to everyone what the relationship between everyone was. Louise and Brianni's parents were given advance notice to avoid surprises and maintain a positive attitude. It was clear that the strategy was to create a wider family in which everyone recognized and valued these relationships. This wide circle was meant to help stabilize the dynamics between James and Louise and Nita and Brianni. During the summer holidays, Nita and the girls went to Louise's parents. During this time, James took Louise on a short trip so that they could be alone. It all worked. Despite the difficulties, James began to see that everyone was trying to improve their common life. By Christmas, Louise was pregnant. The following Christmas, Brianni became pregnant. She was so inspired by Louise's experience that she wanted to experience it herself. James was worried that the grandparents might push Nita and her girls out, but that didn't happen. Nita's parents, in turn, treated Louise and Brianni's children with the same love as they treated their own grandchildren. Of course, no relationship is perfect. There were quarrels, misunderstandings, jealousy, and tense moments. But they learned to overcome them. The best life for everyone was their common life. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. 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 Click to the next one.